everyone clap?
I clapped.
I didn't hear anyone's clap.
It was a
Gentlemen,
soft, limp clap.
I couldn't be more tilted at the moment. So tell me something that'll cheer me up.
You got anything good? Happy, Yanko?
Donk had a 315 T-side rating in a half.
Not doing it for me.
Averaging 2
Next
points round. Okay.
What do you got, Jason?
All I got is I got nothing, dude. I got home last night.
No, I know. I know. So you think your day is going bad? Jason, just after getting back home from 3 weeks of Pro League and flying, having to have 3 flights, had to drive for 12 hours to see his in-laws.
Yeah.
Wait, so you're trying to make me feel better by making Jason's situation seem worse?
Yes.
Misery.
Yes.
That ain't working either. Jason, surely something fun happened on the 9-hour drive.
Yeah. It was the first time I experienced a poop explosion in a diaper. If that makes you feel any better. Again,
Not really.
That's mostly my misery trying to make you happy. I have nothing happy to tell you. I have nothing positive at the moment.
So we're all in a shit mood.
I'm in a fine mood. I just have nothing to cheer you up with. I've got literally zero happy things. Dust 2 is played twice at BetBoom Dacha, so there's demos to watch of how it's going to evolve.
Yeah, but Chad hates Dust 2, no?
No, I don't hate Dust 2.
No? All right.
No, but I think it's fucking lame that the two teams that picked it were just trying to score easy wins. But,
And they both got fucked.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Mal's probably hadn't even played it when just pugging against BetBoom, who had a week to prep on it and then still fucking got bottled. And then Aurora gave it a crack as well, and then it wasn't even the donk show. Shiro and Zontix gave him the absolute fucking sauce. So that's kind of fun too. It's just, I don't know what's going to get me there today, guys. Probably nothing.
But still have positive reviews coming in from Pro League from the people. So there's that. That can maybe help.
That also annoys me because the reason we do Pro League the way we do it is because the format's dog shit. So, and we're also in a place with no crowd. So it's it's great that they enjoyed what we did, but we're just making up for ESL shit decisions. So I'm also fucking annoyed about that as well. So I got reminded of why we do it the way we do it. We don't do it because that's the fucking best option. Well, no, actually, that is the reason we do it.
It is
the
best option for the circumstances that are.
But the reason why it's the best option is a shitty reason. Is that the point?
Yes, yeah. Right, because we have a bad format. We have a place that has less than 150 spectators. We went from it being a prestigious event that used to be in arenas around the world, Dallas, Denmark. It used to be an event that was culminating after a season worth. It's called a league. It's not even a fucking league format. Just some worse than Swiss triple elimination bullshit. And then the one version of Pro League that they were going to do that would have actually been sick, which was meant to have the conference tacked on at the start of Pro League when it was 5 weeks. The first week was meant to be the conference. Then the next 3 weeks after that or whatever it was meant to be were meant to be the group stage. And then the final week was meant to be the playoffs. We never actually did that as was intended. They would do the conference months or weeks before and it was just disjointed. Whereas the conference would have been sick because it would have been all of the best teams from the smaller regions locking horns. So the games would have been comparable as opposed to 13-3 stomps for Bad News Kangaroos to get their fucking shit pushed in after flying 24 hours. They could have actually given it a go against some other teams and been able to see how decent they are against teams who are also from weaker regions. And then the best teams who finally got through would have played against the best teams in the world. And we would have had more matches of the best teams in the world. We had a more exciting games throughout and we would have more interesting storylines because we could have learnt more about the smaller regions in the first week of the event. And then turned our attention to how those plucky underdogs that we've already seen do their work would go against some of the best Counter-Strike teams in the world. But we didn't do that. We didn't do that at all.
What about the weather, Chad? It was getting nice in Malta when we left. You can now start your day going down to the water, taking a dip, getting in the sea.
It was 27 degrees yesterday. That was lovely. But you know what? I lost 7 pugs in a row in the last 2 days.
Ooh.
And then we won 2 in a row yesterday. And then today we've played another 4 and we've lost 3 out of the 4.
Ooh.
I don't want to keep on keeping on anymore. And I'm getting baited and it's fucking tilting me. I'm entry fragging, I'm having impact rounds. I'm not even playing dirt. The first couple of games I played, I was fucking dog shit. I was like a fish out of water. It's like I'd never even held a mouse. I was like a baby learning to breathe for the first time. The umbilical cord had just been cut. I'd just been released from the Matrix and I fucking was dirt. But now I'm shooting. and we're not winning.
Okay. Well, are you playing with your Aussie stack, or are you just playing with randos?
Yep, but we're still losing. It's fucking dog shit. It's making me hate life. I want to re-retire. It's over.
Re-retire from pugs. That's it. I'm gonna hang up the mouse. No more face it pugs for Chad. It's been a good run.
I think the problem is like you need to make those pugs about something else rather than just winning. Like it can't be about not winning. Don't get me wrong. Like winning is still the goal, but even when things are like not going great, it needs to still be enjoyable. Like I feel like that's a bit of a problem with. I don't know exactly that stack because I haven't played with like Aaron and JK and Justin and the other. I played with Justin a couple of times when he was in G2. But for example, even when I play with you guys, sometimes it's like if we're losing, like people just like no one is like even memeing around or talking or like trying to like at least make the team speak funny, while you play. It's like, yeah, fuck, I mean, it sucks to lose. Like, we are trying, it's not working out, fucking suck. But, that's why almost every time, like, people just leave after a, map or 2 maps in a row that are bad. People just leave. Like, in my Serbian stack, sometimes we're all shit. Like, I could be, maybe the best player on the stack. So that tells you how bad the stack is. But we still, like have a shit ton of laughs with like, there's so many messed up calls when you're talking fast, right? You mix up the words and you say something and you just start fucking laughing for a full round. Like, I don't know. I think like especially the problem when you're not good anymore. Like I'm not good anymore, and you can't keep up with all the, I don't know all the nades anymore, like on all the maps. On some maps, I only know a couple of nades, right? Especially fucking Vertigo that I never want to play. So it's like, you just have to accept it and find other ways to enjoy the game, Chad.
Yeah, but Yanko, when I'm playing and I do know all the nades and I'm setting up the rounds and I'm flashing for people and I'm calling and then like, all right, well, let's do this. And then on the other side of the map, when people have to make action and they're just fucking sitting there and they're not saying anything and they don't even organize between like 2 players of how they're going to take an area on the map. It's like, do you want me to fucking teleport out of my skin over to that side of the map and tell you guys what to do as well while I'm taking fucking map control because too many other fucking bitches are scared to take space? It's like, fuck, man. I'm so tilted. It's over. I'm not playing anymore. I quit. I'm done.
You're going to play. You're playing after this podcast. I guarantee you.
I'm not. 100% I'm not playing after this podcast.
Okay. Tomorrow.
It's not tonight, but tomorrow is a new day. You had a bad run. It happens. You have good runs, bad runs. It comes and it goes.
3 bad days of runs, Yanko. That's like diarrhea.
I saw your Face It page. 7 in a row. That's tough. That keeps up with any man, and that's on 4 different maps.
Chad, if you need to take a couple days off, bro, just call up Elo O'Toole. He'll show up. He'll get you some wins under your belt.
Shot actually in my computer room. It's for authenticity's sake. We made sure that we really gave that one all the special it needed. No one commenting on how nice the room was. No one was like, oh, look at all those, or the computer. Everyone just laughing away. Where's people saying that's a nice room?
I know the bed was made. Sheets were tucked in. You had some throw pillows up there. It was a great presentation.
Well,
yeah, multiple sets.
Why would you expect people to know that it's your room?
That's a good point. Well, I do HLTV confirmed out of here once a week.
Yeah, but that's just kind of your head, that they see.
That's true.
And they barely see the background when either. They do it, like they don't see that part. They see the living room, which wasn't in that skit. Well, maybe a little bit.
Briefly.
I don't know, yeah.
Definitely briefly. What do you guys think of I think the June skit was good, but I still think the Lord of the Rings one for me takes the cake of the
Lord of the Rings was the best one of Pro League for sure. Dune skit was good, but I don't even know. It wasn't really even a skit, was it? It was mostly just
like a trailer.
Trailer, yeah.
Yeah.
We had. I came up with a couple ideas for Frank for an actual skit with Dune, but we didn't have the time to execute them this pro league because there was so much shit already in the pipeline. And when you do something with Dune, it's got to look fucking cool. So we couldn't just like half-ass it. So I think next season we have a Dune skit in the pipeline. I think it was like, for me, it was like Lord of the Rings. I think the accent skit was number 2.
I think that was pretty surprising for people to see that one. It caught them a little bit off guard.
Yeah, we opened strong with the accent skit. It really set the tone, didn't it?
Your Scottish is really
Dude,
good.
it wasn't even Scottish. It was like a mixture of every potential accent on the fucking island just combined into one at various points. I actually can't do that accent if I don't swear. If I don't like throw out like the fucking, you know, like I can't do it. It's like a fucking, yeah.
It's like a fucking. No, but it was good. I think for me, Dune was like kind of. It felt, I don't know how to say this, because both were really well produced. But it kind of, I don't know. It was different, right? Because there's more acting and the Lord of the Rings one is just longer. But there's something also about the Dune one. Like it's short, but it's so well, you know, like there's so much work that you had to do. I can't believe for that one shot of like 3 seconds from the bathtub, it took you like hours to like set everything
in that tub
up
for 2 hours for that 3-second shot, and makeup for 1 hour. Like an entire fucking half of a glue stick used on my eyebrows. It was like literally she just took like a butter knife and like cut off a chunk of a glue stick and wiped it on my eyebrows, let it dry, repeated the process, let it dry, repeated the process, let it dry, repeated the process, let it dry, and then like started just shoveling makeup to like to just take away the eyebrows and like make the face all uniform color. The fucking neck was wet paper towels that they sprinkled makeup onto and just like fucking literally glued to my neck. And then what was I wearing underneath that? It was like I had one of those like shit tactical vests that we have lying around that's like half busted. That was on, and then they shoved a couch pillow underneath it, and then I had like a fucking inflatable inner tube for like a swimming pool wrapped around my waist. A waistband to keep it all up, and then those like fucking like 4 black curtains wrapped and draped over me that were also like duct taped to like keep them in position. And it was just like the fucking craziest experience. it was fucking wild.
Trying to think what other ones we did that were because I just had to, me and Alex had to like recreate some lines for the June one. I think the Goodfellas one, obviously, where Yanko kills Alex.
Yeah, that was good. The Goodfellas, that single shot, that was nice.
Yeah, I think
that was actually fun to film too.
Yeah,
like,
I think the peak of that skit is actually that shot. It was like so nice.
Sweet.
And I think
fight. Yeah,
I just wanted to say, like, for people back home, you know, like that's on our media day, right? Some of these people like are not even working, you know, that's their off day, and they're asked, you know, if they can to come in to make that shot better, to just be the background, right? And so many people came to just do that, right? But they could have been doing whatever the fuck they wanted. I think it's a testament to how much, you know, pride also people take now in those kids, and how much fun everyone has doing them and just being a part of them in any way, right? Because it took us a while even to get that one shot. I mean, we were there for what? Because first we were there too early. The sun was still up. We had to wait like half an hour for the sun to go down. And then by the time we set everything up and how many takes we did, it was like hour and a half that we were there, probably.
Yeah. And then they probably had to put everything back in place, right? Because we were using a part that would get turned into like a breakfast area and whatnot.
Yeah, they had to recreate the breakfast buffet for the next day. They had to put everything back in.
So there was a few shenanigans going on there that would have definitely taken a little while to make happen. But yeah, I think like that's the thing. Filming the skits can actually be quite fun. I thought Fight Club turned out better than what I thought it was going to. Right, because when we went in to film like the scene with all of us, and I didn't know how the lighting was going to look, or when we're all sitting there and we're casting like maniacs as well, the type of shots that they were able to get of that was really cool. So that one turned out
that can
much better than I thought.
Think of the fucking bananas.
You just eating 3 fucking bananas, right? Yeah, but you committed to that bit, you know.
Well, I didn't even think about it, but like once I did it on the first shot, you had to have it in every single shot after that. So I ended up eating like 3.5 bananas in like the space of like 10 fucking takes that we did.
And Harry opened 5 monsters.
And it opened 5 monsters. Yeah, it was crazy.
Fortunately, we're sponsored.
Yeah. But that did turn out really good. The second one really brought it all together. Like the second fight club
with Henry and Hugo bit from the.
They actually
room.
don't have that second one or the Goodfellas one on the YouTube channel yet. I'm assuming they'll
think
just kind of release it, space it out.
I think they put both fight clubs up together.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I think that they're like in the same video. So it's just like a longer one, just plays both parts. Yeah. Yep. But that's the thing. I don't know how for next season we are meant to be anywhere near as creative to come up with all those ideas, because like Harry and Hugo involved in quite a few of the creative of those. Rushley as well with like the Falcons one. We sat in here, like Frank does a lot of the scripting work. Frank comes up with a lot of ideas as well. I think that's the difference, right? We kind of need Frank on Pro League for it to be as successful as what it was, I guess.
I remember like having that conversation. I assume it was with you, Chad, or it could have been someone else in like season 1, where it was like when we were doing some of the random skits and random things, it was like, this would have been this is a perfect thing for Frank to be here. And yeah, once we had him there this season, it's like, that's necessary. Having Frank there, you know?
Yeah, well, because he's the guy behind like the confession booth stuff that we do around colognes, and he's been a big part of the other skits that we've done, like the G2 Gorillas one. But I don't know how much Harry had to do with that one, so I don't want to, throw too much praise one way or another. But yeah, I know Harry's got some crazy ideas cooked up that he wants to do. It's just about getting the budget to do so. I love when I see the comments from people. It's like, yeah, no, of course they could do stuff like this. They're owned by Saudi Arabia. They just have unlimited money. It's like, well, no, that's not how this works. We're just fucking doing our best to try and make it. I wish we had unlimited budgets. If we had unlimited budgets, we'd do fucking so many crazy different things. Like and the thing is, we don't even know what the budgets are. Like that's not part of our wheelhouse. We're just.
It also tells you this is the thought process of some of these people. Is like they think because they think, I don't know how they can think this, but a company was bought for $1 billion, and now they think that company has $1 billion. That's what they think.
Yeah.
Instead of understanding that money is paid to whoever owned the company before that, which was for the majority of it MTG, who got the hundreds of millions of dollars.
Must be nice.
The budget for ESL's like, year or content budget or this or that. I don't know if it has changed at all. Maybe something like minuscule, but it's definitely not the unlimited funds that people think that some people think they have to like create this shit. I mean, if they did, we wouldn't cut the event short, or maybe it wouldn't be in Malta or whatever. It would be somewhere else. But when you see a comment like that, then you can just know to ignore that person. Like that person doesn't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, well, lots of people, hear a couple of things and they make some good decisions to make that their opinion going forward. I do love it as well. Like I see other stuff and they're like, oh, why didn't they do this? Or why didn't they do like with Harry's one? It's like, oh yeah, why didn't they fly Hobbit out to be fucking in the Lord of the Rings skits? Like,
I saw that a couple
fuck's
times.
sake, man. Like what is with you people? Like what are you actually talking about? It's actually crazy. And then some of the comments
funny.
is. One of the comments, especially that one that Frank put, said we should do for the
Teaser
like
for next
open
season.
for next season.
Yeah.
I love it. It's like, yeah, some of the people with more influence in the broadcast, like SPUNJ, should really tell them to like pull their heads in. And like, what? Like, I'm out here encouraging the madness. I want there to be more madness. Like and then people are out here as well, like complaining about the casting not being serious and shit. And I'm just like, guys, there is 365 days in a year. There is umpteen amount of Counter-Strike events. This is one Counter-Strike event where we're doing things a little bit more unhinged, a little bit more entertaining. I would say generally, most people enjoyed what we did, right? And for the people who didn't, go over to Face It, watch there. You don't have to listen to us. Like, and people also comparing it to sports broadcast. It's like, you're an idiot. This isn't sports, right? we're not out here to mimic sport. We're actually trying to be. And also, if it was sports, maybe we should fucking make it pay-per-view. How about we do that? How about we actually take from the sports model? And for some of the stuff, you have to pay for a television channel with it, or you have to do a pay-per-view event. How about we start doing that? You want to do that? Let's have that nuclear arms race of like scaling things up. We'll do it that way. Or you're getting, 12 hours of free content every single fucking day for 3 weeks straight. We work 21 days straight. 21 days straight. Non-stop. Yeah. And it's like, man, the negative comments are just by absolute fucking morons. I'm already tilted, but I'm going to make myself more tilted.
The problem is like that because they can speak good English and they can make paragraphs that they somehow think that will make them right. You know, like because they put it all together so nicely, and all of a sudden they think that makes a great point. No, it's not your point. It's fucking dog shit. Like you said one time, Chad, is like if everything is hype, then nothing is hype. Like if every event is prestigious, then no event is prestigious, right? Like if everything's the same, and that's true. The Pro League with its current format and the amount of lower tier teams that you have, you can't pretend like it's Cologne. Actually, you can. That's what we did 2 years ago and 3 years ago when we were in fucking Katowice at the desk and doing the same show like we do for any other tournament. And look at those segments and tell me how entertaining or how enjoyable that is for people to watch, bro. That was some of the like most difficult work I've had to do. So I don't know how enjoyable it could have been for people. And I think precisely because of the format and that it's fucked with, you know, triple elimination and all that bullshit, is like you can't really take it ultra seriously because you know that for the teams and the players it's not the same, right? So instead of sitting there and pretending that it is and feeding people at home false narratives, and you know, I think it's better to just be upfront about it and find in which other way can you make it interesting, you know, for people without obviously being disrespectful to the teams and still being appreciative of you know, if some underdog has a good run like 3D Max did, right? If some teams make a run, and giving them their flowers, because at the end of the day, it is like a huge deal for them. Like for 3D Max to make the playoffs, you know, in the manner in which they did, despite, you know, losing in the game against G2 after that. I mean, it's a huge success. It means a lot for them going forward. And if we see them again, we can look back and say, okay, that was the moment that really propelled them and gave them a chance. And I think also for the most part, I think we did a good job when the game was actually interesting, even though if it were teams that aren't necessarily that good, we weren't really like taking the piss. It was mostly when the games were like super one-sided and you're like, well, what is there to talk about here?
And there was a lot of that, even the grand final. What a boring final.
That's a shit final.
Yeah, that was actually unreal. I can't
remember the last time.
I can't remember the last time I've seen. I feel like I haven't seen a stomp like that in a grand final in a long time. A long time.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely shocking to see, considering the type of form that Zyra was in. Right, you thought that he was just going to stay in that beast mode, and maybe he would lock horns with all the Mouse guys, and we might have a game. But otherwise, it was a non-starter. Mouse absolutely mauled them. I don't even know. Like, I think it continues to build the narrative, unfortunately for Mouse, that they're, you know, studio kings when they've won back-to-back Pro League seasons now. But they did do all right in Chengdu, right? They won a match on the stage. So now it's just about, I guess, doing it on the bigger stages. Dallas up next, Cologne probably the next one after that, where they'll have that opportunity. I don't think they're in London, right? So. But you see when those kids are playing confident Counter-Strike, just like how strong they can be across the board. Like everybody contributing really in different patches. And they Shui taking home the DHL MVP for the event.
Yeah, he was pretty nuts in the playoffs. I mean, I liked it. I enjoyed it just because I think they played like their CT side was so cool. I loved how aggressive they played through against Complexity, and then in the grand final against Vitality. That was actually so much fun to watch. Constant pushes down banana, constant just harassment, disruptive Counter-Strike on the CT side. That was fucking sick. That was probably some of the best CT side execution of tactics that we've seen this year.
There would have been a whole different framing on it, right? If they'd gone into that grand final and they'd lost. But even if it was close-ish and they had lost, and it's like, well, yeah, they had a shit side of the bracket. Like there wasn't that many good teams there. Whereas they absolutely owned Vitality, who had to deal with FaZe and Astralis, who are still like on the rise. So, you know, they were dealing with a team who was taking on other teams that we consider good on the more difficult side of the bracket, and they just fucking flatlined them. So, yeah, and now they're playing straight away in this BetBoom Dacha event, and they play Dust 2 in the opening game against BetBoom, and they still get that one across the line. So props to Mouse, I guess.
Bro, the prize pool here is $500,000.
Yeah, 300 grand first prize, 100 second, 50 for third/fourth.
And the
That's so crazy.
First place, it probably was what 170K. You posted
180.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. I thought you were in the middle of a sentence, but
No.
yeah, I agree. It should be way more top heavy for Pro League. And I understand how people are going, oh, what about the small teams? Listen, you coming in and not winning a single game, you shouldn't get any money. You should get paid though when you qualify for Pro League, right? Like by making, how do you qualify for Pro League? MIBR is going to be at the next season of Pro League. How? They won Melbourne, but they got 50K for winning Melbourne. That's what you get. You know, like even if it was qualifying through conference or something like that, like you get paid there. Sure, and even increase that a little bit. But if a team comes and is like 0-3 and they just get banged out 3 games, why would we give them like 5, 6, 8K? You know, for what? Your travel and accommodation is paid for. You have food there. You're not spending any money to get there and to play. You know.
Yeah. No. I understand.
Also, like
why
6, 7, 8 place, all this bullshit. Fuck off. At this bet boom thing, only top 4 teams get paid. Like if you make the playoffs, you get paid. And third and fourth are 50K, second is 100K, and first is 300K.
This was all invite as well, right? There was no qualifier to this. So this
for the bet boom, there was some qualifiers.
Were there?
I think the teams that qualified were MIBR through a South American closed qualifier and Aurora as well.
Yes.
Okay.
So the rest of them were invited, but that's another thing. Like, it's going to be interesting to see these events next year are probably going to have to be done off of Valve's world ranking. Oh, this is another thing that tilts me, right? Like, I'm going to speak from a position of I have no fucking idea, right? But I will say this much: the Bet Boom event it's like Russian, right? That's why people are, get upset about this stuff, and they go, oh, it's money laundering. To run any Counter-Strike event, can you guys correct me if I'm wrong here? You need a Counter-Strike license from Valve.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you need a Counter-Strike license from Valve, I assume that you have to submit something to Valve, right?
That is where I don't think. Okay, I don't know 100%, but I was always under the impression that the way Valve did it was basically like anyone can have it, but they can revoke it. I don't necessarily think you need to go out and ask.
So what? You just buy it? Because you have to pay for it.
I don't even think you have to pay for it.
I don't think you have to pay.
I know you do if in like Valorant, if you want to run like a third-party Valorant event, you have to pay a fee to get the license, and Riot's really picky about who they give the license out to run events.
You don't have to pay for a license to run Counter-Strike.
Pretty sure
events.
in Counter-Strike, Valve just has the operating procedure of you can have the license and you can run whatever fucking event you want, and if they get to a point, they can take it away if for whatever reason they don't want you to run it. And again, I don't know for sure, but that's the way I've always understood it in my head over the years.
Interesting. Well, I don't know who we could check with to ask that question, I guess.
I could be very wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
Well, regardless, we won't get the answer for it right now.
Yeah.
But still, Valve have to give you the license. They have to give you the green light.
Yep.
Right?
Theory, yep.
So if Valve thought that there was anything that was like nefarious with a company, I would assume that they wouldn't give them.
Yeah, regardless, or they would revoke it. I mean, regardless, like if they thought there was something fishy going on, obviously they don't want people to do that to launder money with their game, right? But there's a lot of like to unfold their, what about skin gambling sites? What about this? What about that? You feel me? Like you could do that in other ways than just running a tournament.
Yeah, for sure. But that's the thing. It's like I just struggle to see how a tournament would be able to run knowing that they need a license from Valve if they were up to, no good. Which doesn't mean they're not up to no good. They could be up to no good. For me, it just feels like this is a company that has a lot of money and they're spending it to put Counter-Strike events on to promote their gambling website, right? Or betting website, I guess, because we're talking about betting. And there seems to be a difference for some people when you talk about sports betting and you talk about gambling. I don't even know if I can go on BetBoom in this country. Let's have a look.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean that all sounds right.
BetBoom, online casino, bet for real money. I can't access it. Site unavailable. Error details. Unfortunately, access is blocked in your country. Well, there you go. Can't even access it in Malta. Oh,
I'll see if I can access it.
I can't even have a look. Well, you would have it the most strict, wouldn't you, in America?
I can't even find it.
Well, maybe not the most strict, but I just googled BetBoom. I can't. There's a lot of like sites I can't access.
I got nothing.
Yeah. So I guess if we used a VPN, we could probably get around it. I wouldn't even know what countries to look at. But yeah. Yeah, no, when I read that stuff, it makes me question. It's like, well, are Valve like a guardian body in that regard, and they would try and stop that type of stuff? Are they completely ignorant to it and they just give out these licenses? And I thought it had to be paid for, and if it did have to be paid for, are they just like taking money, and how much money is it? I don't know. So, because I remember when WCG and ESWC used to get run. Yeah, like I know this is different because they would have had to get the license from the game developer back then anyway. Yeah. But in the country, somebody would have to get the license to run the WCG or ESWC event, right? And if I wanted, like, let's say that I had we went back in a time machine and I had a lot of money back then, I could just buy the WCG spot for Australia or ESWC one. And then I could just give it to my team if I wanted. I wouldn't even have to run any qualifiers or anything. I don't think anything like that was mandatory.
Probably wasn't regulated back then either.
Yeah, well, that's a whole different kettle of fish, right? Because they needed as much money as they could get back then, because we weren't as we weren't as cash heavy as we are right now. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's an event.
But this event is also on LAN, and it has double the prize pool of like Dallas.
Yes.
So this will, I mean, it will matter a lot for next year.
Valve rankings, right?
For Valve rankings, right? I mean,
that's why I was asking about the qualifiers. I thought this was all direct invite, so in theory it wouldn't affect, because don't you need a certain percentage of
I don't think that is the case yet. I think it'll be the case next year.
Do we know? Do we know what the percentage is? Is it like half the teams have to be qualified? A quarter of the teams need to be qualified?
I don't think we have any of that info yet. I don't think they've given out that info yet. So it's
interesting.
It's one of the
It's one of the things that we're hoping to discover, as 2024 moves on.
Yeah, and I would assume when we get, that's the thing. When would you guys think is enough time to 6 months in advance before go?
I would say 6 months in advance would be ideal. I think probably, if we're more realistic, it'll probably be like 3 to 4 months in advance. I mean, in theory, it could be the next major is when we get the details for what 20.
That'd be way too soon, though, wouldn't it? Yeah. Because like TOs are planning their events right now. So, for example, something like a Katowice, which is used on a structure where teams qualify for that event by like the ESL World Rankings, or they can qualify through different like tournaments, right? Like winning Pro League got Maus a spot in Cologne, right? So that, but I'm under the impression, I don't know if this is the case, and again, we're going to have to wait and see what Valve say about all this, but I was under the impression that wouldn't be able to function that way anymore. That like if I won, like I couldn't get invited because I'd won another tournament. But that's the thing. I don't know. I thought it would be, everything would essentially be off of the Valve ranking, and that's how you'd have to invite teams to your events. There must be some form of qualification method though, but can you use another standalone tournament as a qualifier to that event? That's something we're going to have to wait and find out, because that'll change things of like how Blast works, for example, how ESL with the
I'm sure
EPT works.
I'm sure organizers like ESL and PGL and Blast have probably way more information on those details than we do at the moment, right? Like you'd assume that they would have a little bit more of an indication of where things are going to be headed so that they can plan for it in advance.
Well, we have none. I do know that there's conversation of next year. I do know next year there's conversation of like EPL potentially going back online. I don't know whether that would be for the whole thing or portions of it, but then how is that going to work? Because if they've like ironed out 3 weeks in the calendar, but you do it online for the first 2 weeks, then you'd be booking flights last minute. How long could the finals be? It probably couldn't be a whole week. It would only have to be a couple of days. So like I know those discussions are floating around, but I don't know how true or legitimate any of that is. And then would teams be incentivized to play in something like that? Would they just choose to play other tournaments like a Bet Boom Dacha, for example, that has a shitload of prize money and they could get invited to, and they would just have to go for a week as opposed to having to play 3 weeks worth of Counter-Strike? The thing that ESL has going for them, I think, over all the other TOs is hospitality. But regarding other details, like that's where people might make choices based on prize money and stuff.
Well, that's what Valve spoke to? We talked to Valve about that in Copenhagen, and they even said like what they expect to happen is eventually teams to do their own kind of like research about which events they were going to attend when there are clashes. Like this one has more prize money, but maybe it has like a tougher number of teams attending it, whereas this one is less prize money, but there's a few easier teams that are deeper on the rankings, so you can place better and gain more points for the Valve rankings to qualify for the major. So they kind of expected that eventually teams are going to have to play the fucking point system on top of just chasing after prize money. That's like going to be
the game within a
factor
game
of how teams choose which events to go to, is how it's going to affect their rankings.
Yeah, and that'll be something interesting for us to talk about, I guess, from the pundit level, because we'll be discussing.
Gives it a new angle.
And then in the race for who qualifies for the major or who gets invited to what events, that'll all be predicated, I suppose, on the rankings. So we'll have to keep a closer eye on how all of that unfolds, and I'm sure that's something that Valve will be tweaking time after time. But as what feels like we're in like the hyperdrive to get there. We're already in May. We're going to be in June real soon. And then for the end of this season, we only have a handful more events, right? There's like Dallas.
And then there's London finals for Blast. And
there's also that Yalla Compass event.
And then we're basically at the player break.
Yeah, and then out of the player break, I think the EWC event is...
Isn't that in the player break? Isn't that like the last week of the player break?
I think the first out of the player break.
Yeah. I think the player break ends on Sunday the 14th of July, and I think people have to fly to Saudi on... Monday, the 15th of July, I think. I don't know exactly, but yeah.
But also, right, the open qualifiers were during the player... Okay, never mind. I'm stupid because the major wasn't at the end of the season.
I think this time...
for PGL. Like for Copenhagen, they were in January, but the major was in March, so it doesn't have to
Let me check the calendar. I think, I penciled in some RMR dates. Do we have the official RMR dates yet?
I don't believe so.
Like when I was making the calendar at the start of the year, where I had put the RMR dates was like somewhere between
October, early November.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then it would be pretty much a couple weeks off, and then like a week, 2 weeks off, and then straight in towards the Shanghai Major. So that might not be the case, because before that, I'm pretty sure Blast will have their like world finals. There's the IEM fall event, which is in Rio. There's the Blast Fall Final event. There's Pro League Season 20. There's Cologne. There has to be the Blast Fall Group Stage. And then there's like a bunch of other of these tournaments that we're looking at right now that pop up. So there's a lot of... That's the thing. Next year, there'll be even more Counter-Strike, which is exciting and also quite daunting at the same time.
Yeah, but there's going to be a shit ton, I think, of these little pop-up... betting events, skin sponsored events that are just going to explode, I think. These small, like 1 week ones, 8 teams.
The IESF World Championship is from November 11th to 19th. Surely that's when RMRs are on.
Well,
what is this?
We know what teams are going to pick.
Single elimination best of 3. But if is that like a nation-based tournament? I'm pretty sure it is, right? Like the IESF is a nation-based event, because that was the one that was in Romania last year, I think. Was it last year? Either way.
Is this one this says on HLTV it's in Riyadh?
Yeah, but didn't the what's it called? The Savvy Gaming Group buy the IESF as well?
Did they?
I don't know. Maybe let me check. SSG buys IESF. So many fucking acronyms, man. Where would I even find this?
I'm looking at it. I'm looking for it right now.
Game is a...
No, it doesn't. I can't find anything about them specifically buying IESF. I was just surprised to see it in Riyadh, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I mean that's going to be tough to swing, especially for if players. I don't know what the rules are and how.
But it's more of a nation-based one, right? It's not normally the top teams. It's more like the tier 2, tier 3 teams, and they kind of put together and make a nation-based squad. It's not.
Yeah, but
really
if you're a tier 2, tier 3 team, you're going to be trying to go through the RMR. So depending on when all that happens, it might not even be possible.
That's a good point. And I was talking about the RMRs as opposed to the open
Even
and then the closed
the
qualifiers.
open and closed qualifiers is going to be quite a party with all those events going on as well.
Yeah, that's true. How do we save Pro League, guys?
What do you mean?
Save it.
Well, not
Save it
from
for
like,
what?
if we had to fix the format, like let's say right now that, you know, some people who actually work in Counter-Strike, who watch it every day of their lives, who talk to the players, who have been involved in professional Counter-Strike before, you know, were asked their opinion for once, and that opinion could actually have some weight. Hilarious, isn't it? How would we adjust the Pro League format to make it something that would actually be interesting? What would be the moves that you would make? And like, let's not get it twisted. In terms of entertaining, I think what we did was entertaining. But I mean, to make it a tournament, look. It would, in my mind, it's just such a shame that an event that now has a 19-season-long history has a shit format and has a climax of being in front of 150 people, and we've had in the past teams win the Intel Grand Slam before at that event. It doesn't. It's not fitting of what it should be.
It looks really weird seeing a team fucking win the Grand Slam in Malta at Pro League. When that was FaZe that did that, I think that was that was so fucking weird. I'm assuming we're going to operate under the assumption that you still need 32 teams to be involved.
You can operate under any assumption you want. Like let's go open slather right now. Like, what would you do? Like, obviously within the confines of reality. I'm not saying let's make the prize pool $10 million and invite 64 teams and within what seems like it could be a realistic chop and change for ESL to be able to navigate through.
Oh, fuck. I mean, I think I would drop it down to 24 teams at the very least.
Okay.
Take some number of teams away because there were just teams in there that were just kind of like filler fluff teams, it felt like. I dropped that down.
But isn't that the point of it? Like, in a way?
Yeah, it is. And I mean, it's supposed to be kind of like a pipeline event. But
then they just put some of the younger teams up against some of the best teams in the world, and they get crushed and they learn nothing.
Maybe 32 teams would be fine, but like this whole like triple elimination group stage is like it's even like just hard to follow, even like working the event of just being like, okay, when is this team potentially eliminated now? Like none of that shit even. Maybe it's just because of the style of the show that we did that, but I really didn't have any investment in where teams were in the bracket,
Yeah. That's fair.
And I mean, you need to introduce more stakes into the format, regardless of how you do it. I'd probably maybe increase the groups and increase the number of groups and decrease the number of teams, so that you decrease the number of teams in each one and make it, just a little bit more cutthroat. You could even still do like the old school, like GSL style groups, and just make more groups that have like one team getting eliminated a little bit earlier on. I don't know. I think there's so many small issues with it in my mind every step of the way. Like, I hate the playoff bracket. I hate the playoff bracket where it's like, 4 teams get to skip to the quarterfinals. Some teams get to skip to this point. Like, I hate the skipping of the brackets. I would change all that. Make sure no one can actually skip a bracket. I'd give it.
Well, it's 16 teams that made it to the playoffs. We could have just done a 16-team single elimination bracket.
And that'd be the other thing. Like, you can extend the playoffs and make it so teams don't have to skip, and then you just do a 16-team bracket. Like, that'd be sweet.
How many games in 16-team bracket? I should be able to work this out really easily, but now there's like this little AI overview plugin every time you Google something now, and it's like a 16-team tournament can have 15 games in a knockout format. Yeah. There you go.
I think it just, if you want to make it like more competitive or more prestigious, then I mean the best format we can have for that many teams is the one that we have in Cologne and Cato. But you would just double it because we have 16 teams in the group stages of Cologne and Cato, right? So that would be 1 week would be 16 teams, second week would be the other 16 teams, and then the playoffs would come after. And you would cut a couple of games because you would get more teams into the playoffs. Like in Cato and Cologne, we have 6 teams in the playoffs. We could definitely have 8. So have the quarterfinals like fully being played out, right? The other option would be to like have more groups and then just do it with 4 teams. GSL best of, like a World Cup in football. There's 32 teams. There's 8 groups of 4, right? And 2 teams from each group go into the playoffs, and it starts from the round of 16 and all of that stuff. Like, those are the 2 ways that you do it, because anything that's more than a double elimination bracket or more than 2 chances is fucking Mickey Mouse tournament. It just is. it just is. Like, I don't care. Like, how are you going to like talk about the mid bracket? Like, I was even memeing about it in one of the casts. So yeah, here's the game where if you lose, you're not eliminated, but if you win,
last chance.
You haven't qualified. Like, what is there to play for in this game? Okay, so you don't get into the last chance bracket, but I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's like Blast came up with a shit format, and then someone at ESL was like, you think that's shit? Hold my beer. Like, we're gonna one up them. We're gonna come up with an even shittier format.
Yeah, and I think the fact that you still have days where teams play 2 best of 3s in a day is like, how is this even happening? Like, how does that still happen when we have so many days of play and we're still having days where people are playing 2 best of 3s in one day? It's just like, it doesn't make any sense.
But then on like which day, Saturday and Sunday, there's no B stream, or just Sunday?
Yeah,
it's like,
just Sunday.
Just keep the fucking B stream, my man, and that way you can, have more games like being played, so you don't have to play 2 on one day.
At the risk of coming off as an ESL shill / apologist, I will just highlight the fact that, remember, Pro League with the Louvre agreement, decisions are not entirely made by ESL. They're also made by the teams involved. And from a team perspective, this is a fucking win league for them. But
the best teams don't. The partner teams don't even play a lot.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to argue with anything. I'm just saying, if you are a team, you want to have if you are a team owner, you want to have the most opportunities for your team to be able to qualify for the playoffs and go deep. You want to have the most opportunities to avoid elimination, and you want to have the most screen time possible in a tournament.
But they're not getting the most screen time. They're getting the least screen time because they win easily, so they don't have to play half of the days. If they top their group, they skip the first 2/3 days, depending on where they play in the quarterfinals of the playoffs, and then they might just play one playoff game and lose.
I don't know, maybe not, but G2 had to play everything in the group stage.
Yeah, by losing.
Yeah. But like they lost, and then they had that extra chance, and they got to run through the whole thing to actually qualify for the playoffs at the end of the day.
So why don't we do this then? Why don't we turn it on its head?
It's a massive safety net for the bigger orgs that are partnered in the Louvre agreement.
But let's turn it on its head then. Let's have it so the best teams automatically all start in the lower bracket.
Oh.
If we're doing dumb formats, let's go real dumb. Let's have all the best teams just start in the
top
lower.
10. You have to you start with 1 loss on your belt.
Yeah, and you just have to battle your way back through. You have to see if you can take on all of the underdogs when you're already backs against the wall, because at least then the good teams will be trying in every match because they could get eliminated. Well, maybe not with a triple elim. Good news, everybody. 230 days until the year ends, which means the end of all this partnership bullshit, and then we don't have to have a conversation about that. And you know what else? What else? Don't get me started on some of these teams. All right, this is not directed at the players, because the players 95% of the time are more than happy to do the fun stuff or do the content or be involved on the couch and have some questions or come and join the cast when available. And maybe even the teams don't even know this. Maybe the teams at like the higher level, like the people who run the organization, who want their players and jerseys with sponsors on it to have like more screen time or be involved in more things so that they can get more optics. Maybe they don't even know this. But there are some managers of some of these teams who are telling us in a post-game interview that we can only have the players for 5 minutes. And then they're in the ear of like people and getting their producer to make us throw to breaks earlier. And the players, they're having a good time. They're having a good time. They're talking along. It seems like they're having a great time. They're having a laugh. We're having a chat. It's fun. We're not making them do anything crazy. And we're getting told in our ear that we have to get them out of there because the manager of the team wants us to be done with them.
Yeah, we're only allowed to have these guys for like 6 minutes. We're only allowed to we have to cut it short now. The last question, 5 minutes is coming up.
And these are some of the best organizations in the world, like biggest and best organizations in the world. Right now, I'm talking about 2 teams that are inside the top 10. 2 of them right now, we're inside the top 10. And then there's another one of the teams in the top 10 who is starting to fall into a bit of a category where they can't even poke fun at themselves because they're afraid of them mentioning another team name or one of their players potentially being transferred. So they won't let us put content out there that shows them talking about their own stuff in a funny light, as opposed to them just looking like they have no self-awareness. Like it's insane, man. It's like it irks me. We're definitely not doing things to get in their way to make their life any harder. We're trying to, like, everybody enjoyed the Lord of the Rings skip. Everybody enjoyed the Dune skip. They thought they were great little activations, right? These are things that put the players in these fun environments. And then we talk to some players and they're like, yeah, man, I'd love to do this, or I'd like to be involved in more funny stuff with it. And you talk to the players and 95% of the time they're cool. But there's a few managers of these teams who, for whatever reason, are just like actively cock blocking us all the time. And I don't even know if the players even know about that. I don't even know if they're aware that I spoke to one of the players whose manager blocked a piece of content that we couldn't put out. And I spoke to him about it and I said, do you have a problem with this? And he said, no. And I was like, so why aren't we doing it? He said, I don't know. Okay, cool. So the players don't even have a problem with it, just the management. It fucking sucks, man. I don't know what to do.
I get it that, sometimes they're thinking, the player is just looking at it, would I do this or not? He's not thinking about anything else, how it might affect the brand or this sponsor, that, or anything like that. But for the bullshit, like, oh yeah, you can only have him for 5 minutes, not 10 like last time, because the players need to rest. It's like, give me a fucking break. Like, what are we doing? We're not doing like anything to them. Like, we're not torturing them or fucking making them do some ridiculous shit for 20 minutes. It's most of the time it's just chatting with them or like having them play where you're paying attention, like, which is just a post-game interview in a sense, in a gamified, right? Like in a more entertaining or like a more engaging way, right? So that's just people trying to, like, I don't know, in their eyes, like, earn their paycheck and just trying to be a hard ass because, like, they can and like be protective of the players when there's like completely no reason to do that at that time. Like, you're just being a dick, bro. You're not like doing your job. You're not protecting your players. You're not helping your team. You're just being a dick,
Yeah, it's another one of these sad things. And it also, when you talk to the players, that when you're not in the environment that we're in, you talk to them and they're so chill and they want to do things and everyone's friendly and stuff. But when the management's around, I've never seen Counter-Strike quite like it. Everyone's, and I know it's big business and everything like that, but at the end of the day, and I'm not trying to devalue what we're doing here because I love what we do and I've been doing it now for fucking forever, but it's a video game.
Yeah.
And it's a competition and it's entertainment. So, like, just the raw premise of playing a video game is this is ironic considering how I started the podcast completely tilted about losing face games. But the whole premise is meant to be about enjoyment and doing something for fun, right? And like the level of seriousness around it all the time. And I know that it's big business and there's lots of money flying around and there's big competition and crazy hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of buyouts and everything like that. But still, there's a young adults, and we're all enjoy the same thing. It should be definitely a fun experience for people, not like a stressful, fucking tense thing. I don't know.
Well, it ties into a couple things. Like, I think when you referenced that Reddit comment that was like, if we're ever going to be a true competitor to traditional sports, blah blah blah, and it's like we've been trying to be a competitor to traditional sports by doing traditional sports for the past 10 years, and it hasn't really moved the needle. And then on the other hand too, it's like, part of our pitch when we suggested kind of this new style of broadcast to ESL was like, we want to get the players in front of the camera more because that's how fans engage with them and start to enjoy them as people, and that's how you get them to actually invest their emotions into these players and these teams. And we can't do that if players are constantly being denied any kind of involvement in any kind of a show. So for me, I'm like, when I hear things like that, I'm like, I get it, I guess, one sense from like a business brand perspective, but at the same time, it's like, we're trying to find ways to make authentic content to esports that is supposed to be fun and entertaining the way video games are to everyone, while also using it as a vehicle to get, your brand out in front of fans and your players out in front of fans so that they can actually grow a fan base that's invested in your success or your players' success. And from that angle, I'm just like, I don't understand why it's such a hard thing for some TOs to get behind that or see the value in it, I guess.
Yeah, but I don't even know what the goal is to try and have this as... This is why I am so Valve pilled. It's not even fucking funny. This is why I think get all the organizations and burn them to the ground. Like, just get them all. I don't give a fuck who they are. I don't care about their history. Burn them to the ground. This is why I think that the FaZe situation is the best, because I know I just said burn all orgs to the ground. But to me, from the outside looking in, FaZe looks like an organization that goes, we have a Counter-Strike team, but, you know, they do whatever they fucking want. And Yanko, you were there. You know that you didn't necessarily get the most support from the org, but like that actually I think is kind of a good thing in some degree. Like if they need this or they need that and they can go knocking and ask for it and then they can get it, but nothing's thrust upon them, nothing's forced upon them. They're a huge organization. They're expected to get results. And FaZe, in my mind, they look at like the org that's like, well, if we're making playoffs and things are going all right, you know, this is fine. If it's miserable and we're losing all the time and we're not making playoffs, then yeah, maybe we need to come and check and ask some questions and see what's happening. But otherwise, when I think about FaZe, I don't think any extension. I don't think about the Vitality owner coming up on stage at the HLTV Awards when the award for Vitality is going on for Team of the Year or whatever it is. Like, I think of the 5 guys in the server, the coach, Eddie, and Roban. That's what I think of. And I know that, and maybe that Tico guy who sometimes comes to the events. He seems pretty cool. But otherwise, it's like, it's just a bunch of dudes, and they're out there playing Counter-Strike, and it doesn't have all this ancillary bullshit to it. If we just... And I know it's not realistic, but imagine if we just had like the teams would just go to. I've spoken about this too many times. I don't want to do it again. I don't want to talk about it again. Like just being sufficient off of going to the majors and making money and doing that, right? Yep. As opposed to all this other nonsense that we have going on. But we have all this other nonsense, and I feel like it gets in the way sometimes.
But why isn't it like that in any other competitive environment, whether it's sports or whatever?
But that's the thing. I think that the angle that Jason was talking about, where he's mentioned we've for so long tried to make it like traditional sports, I think that's the thing that's off the mark. This isn't a traditional sport. It's a professional video game, and I don't think it should try and mimic professional sports whatsoever. I think that it should be like... It's
not necessarily like in terms of broadcasting or anything like that. It's just like we're talking about ultimately like competing and competition, right?
Yeah, but I am talking about it from an org level, not like a broadcast level.
Yeah, I know, but if you were going to be more successful with no org competing, right? Wouldn't we already see it in some instances? Like if you get the most out of it, I think actually though, okay, the problem is in things like sports is like you don't actually get the most from winning. You just get paid a lot, win or lose, right? If you're a good player, so it's probably not a great comparison.
My issue is, though, that to monetize the business, right? So all of these TOs or orgs, right, team orgs, none of them have a successful business model as far as I understand. Like the thing when you look at a business like ESL or EFG now, they have so many verticals in that business that they're trying to make money across all of them. And maybe some of the esports ventures they have don't make money, but maybe some of the other verticals they have, like Faceit, for example, or doing white label stuff, is able to make them money. And I don't know if a business over the whole, they're a private company now, so I don't know if any of that information is even remotely public. If they're in the black or if they're in the red as far as the bank balance is looking, and it's the same for all of them. When you're a company like this, and Blast is going through the same kind of growing pains I think ESL was going through back in like 2015, 2016, where ESL was copping a lot for making some bad decisions, right? And they weren't providing the best stuff they possibly could, and then after that they had to level up. Blast in the beginning were one of those TOs that came in and were disruptive in a good way. They were offering up things that were I can't say this word. There was innovation. That's a safer way to do it. Thanks, Jason.
Innovative.
And then in terms of like hospitality for players and whatnot, and that's the same thing when what was it? Epicenter came in, and then we had prac rooms in the hotel, or like the what players were getting to go to these type of events. I've heard there was like an event last year that the Astralis guys went to where they got paid a fucking shitload of money to go as like essentially an appearance fee to get them to go there. But like that type of stuff obviously isn't going to be happening all the time. But my point is there are these different, like E-League's a good example. There's these different companies that come in over time that are disruptive and they make change within the space. But with the methodology that we have, these businesses, EFG, I think, is outside of the conversation because of just the sheer size of it and how many different things it has its hands-on in terms of FACER and all this other stuff. But how do you even run a successful business as a Blast or somebody? You saw E-League, they completely got out of that space because it's more beneficial for them just to run like Rocket League or White Label, where they're getting money directly from the developer. You don't get any money as ESL or Blast to run Counter-Strike events directly from the developer. You're trying to come up with a business model that will make you money. You don't charge anybody to view. The only way that you're doing it is by putting advertising on it. And then, other than that, you do some live events, and maybe you're lucky enough to cover that with the gate that you get, or you do some merchandise or whatnot, but you're not swimming in cash. You're not making money hand over fist. And then you look at the orgs. They're paying, like, you look at how much some of these players cost. Like m0NESY was 600K, right? I think Skulls was rumored to be around that same amount of money in modern day Counter-Strike for a almost completely untested player at that level of CS. People are throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars around. I know fucking 15 years ago for me, just the idea of $100,000 seemed like an amount of money that was never even going to be fucking obtainable. And now we're throwing it around on like 22-year-old Counter-Strike players to get them into different teams. And how is anybody making any money? Where is it coming from? How do we get it back? What are people paying for? What is the general fan paying for other than their eyeballs of attention? And how much is that even worth? I need the numbers. I need to know what's going on, man. It's frying my brain, man.
Yeah, I mean, we all know the buyout numbers have been fucking crazy. I'm surprised they haven't been brought down at all by now. I think especially, I would imagine they will, especially in Brazil. We keep hearing reports from people in the Brazilian scene that like the buyouts and the contracts and the fees and everything are just so insane that it's not feasible in any way. And for the most part, the thing that sucks the most about it is it's hurting the players more than anyone that's involved in these contracts.
They're locked in jail.
Yeah, and you're gonna, and I mean, I think I've been waiting. I've kind of assumed that CS2 would alleviate that a little bit, because I think we're gonna start seeing eventually that you don't need to go buy a player who has a good tournament for $400,000, because there's probably a million other players in CS2 who are gonna merge as a young unsigned talent somehow. And if you're good at scouting, and if you have people involved in the various parts of the scene, I think you could probably find someone who like is valuable that you don't have to pay that much money for. And that's where I kind of thought that the contracts would come down a little bit, and that hasn't really happened quite yet, from my understanding. But I don't know. I think teams at the moment are still. We heard it from Natu when he was on as well. Like 2016 was probably the year of the VC investment, and all that went away, and teams took a hit. And I think now we're going to see it's not VC investment, but private investment from different companies and industries and countries. Natsu was saying there's so many teams now with this kind of investment that just get a huge chunk of cash from weird areas of the world, and that now is the next big strong or big powerful entity that is kind of artificially holding some of this stuff up. But I'm with you. I don't think teams in any way have a winning recipe. But I think that's also why they're being such sticklers on certain areas, is because at the moment they're operating under the theory that they are chasing down that correct path in their mind, and that's why they're being such a pain in the ass about certain things.
What's the utopian end goal for Counter-Strike? Do we have one?
I don't know. I don't know what the end goal is supposed to look like. I don't know what it is, to be honest with you.
But ideally, it would be, in my mind, a game that is consumed in all possible facets, right? From people being excited on more of a TMC level about personalities within Counter-Strike and what they're up to on a day-to-day type of basis. Then obviously the in-game outcome of the players, the teams going toe-to-toe, the storylines that encapsulates. Then you step even further back from that to people who enjoy Counter-Strike and are able to enjoy Counter-Strike on a big level, whether that be the 14-year-old kid or the 34-year-old man or the 55-year-old's grandma, right? Who can jump in and play some version of Counter-Strike, Wingman, Premier, whatever, right? And enjoy playing the game of Counter-Strike, and more people getting that enjoyment and out of the game that we've spent so much time playing. And then so we've done the viewing, we've done the investment in the individuals, we've done the actual playing of the game, right? And that all just expanding to a point where I guess it is already one of the largest consumed video games in the world, but it probably hits a level where that being consumed by a certain amount of people in the world puts us in a sustainable position, right? I still feel with some of the stuff that we're trying to do by fill out arenas and boast about the amount of numbers of people that we got into an arena for a Counter-Strike event is what we were doing 10 years ago when we were like, yeah, mainstream media, feature us on the news. Look, we can get 12,000 nerds in a venue to watch a video game. It's like, that's where I think we're still off the beat. Whereas like in my mind, it would be with all these different events that we have going on, they're in ranges where they could be all over the world in different areas, featuring a larger slew of teams that are popular than what we have right now. Maybe like double that amount. And those events are housing 3,000 to 4,000 fans that go in and they watch these type of events, and the ticket prices are at a bit more of a premium, and people are going to pay. They want to go there, right? These tickets are selling out, and it's just consumed by a larger body of people. But that's where we are just constantly going to have the arms race of these companies, the orgs, trying to search for more and more money to play the best players even more, which I think is fine. And that's natural competition between business or those who want to compete. But that's where we had the overinflation from the VC money. I thought, like, as you mentioned there, Jason, maybe we get a bit of a course correct on that. Maybe that's still to come. Maybe we're still overinflated in that regard. Maybe we're not overinflated and this is just how it's going to be forever. But at the end of the day, I still don't know where the cash flow comes from. But I say that, and we haven't stopped going yet. We've still been going for what, as far as CS:GO is concerned, 10 years, and now into CS2. So what am I talking about? Everything seems fine. Shut up, Chad. It's all good.
I think for me, we were talking about like dream scenario, right? Endgame.
Yeah.
I think it depends on two things. First of all, like, do we think CS will come to the level where you could easily have a sort of South American circuit and a South American league that would be entertaining on its own, and then get,
for the world or just South America?
For the, I guess for the world in a way. Like, my point was going to be where you have all these regional competitions that culminate in like a worlds, like similar to, I guess, League has it in a similar way. That would be one of them. Another one would...
Yeah, activating more of the world, sure, yeah.
Yeah, and like just having that. But I'm thinking about what would be like the most entertaining thing, and like how many games do you want to have? Like, I was thinking, like, for me, it's really entertaining the franchise league system that you have in US sports with the salary cap and the draft actually makes it very interesting and very cool, because you have to be really bad at your job and like building a roster or scouting players to be a bad team for a prolonged period of time, right? Because you all have the same amount of money. Let's say you all have 2 million euros to spend on a Counter-Strike team, right? Like, that's what you can pay your team in salary over the course of a year, whatever, So that way you can't have Falcons come in and buy the top 5 players and just immediately, be one of the best teams in the world. Like, you limit that. And obviously at that point, you're hoping that you can come with, there can be 16 organizations there who are willing to spend that much each year and actually compete for players and all of that stuff, right? Because for me, that's what's interesting, is that, you can't just come and buy the best players and immediately make yourself like one of the best teams in the world. And also it gives you like an opportunity to, if you're having a bad year, not only, you can pick up free agents, but also you can pick up the newest prospects like from the draft. Now, I don't see, the only way the draft can be a thing is if we put, let's say, a 20-year or 21-year old limit, or I don't know, maybe it can be even 18, 19, right? A limit on how old you can be to play in that league, right? But that's why you have the Academy League, where players from whatever, 10 years old, whatever the fuck, until they turn 18, they're in that league. And that's at that point, like, they can get picked up by the teams from the main league, like some sort of that. Because for me, it's like, I think it has to be a sort of a league system, right? Like, you need to have it so people are used to it, so they know when the games are, so you can get used to, just like you have in any other sports to an extent, like, okay, this day is for CS, right? Or I know on this day I'll have something. And then on top of that, you have maybe a couple of events. I think it's actually pretty similar to League, just that League has too long of a break maybe, and not as many international sort of events or like stops, right? They have MSI and Worlds, right? Is that it? Or there's maybe one more, like something, I'm not sure. But
they're going to have an EWC event.
Yeah, they'll have an EWC, right? And you make that, you do it that way. And then you have, to be honest, one of the crazier things for me that we have, for example, is we have the winter break, which we should not have. Like
over Christmas.
Yes. Like there should be no break then. There should just be a longer break.
Good luck getting that one past the players.
What?
Good luck getting that one past the players.
Bro, fuck the players. Like because listen, man, if I came to the players and said, listen, you have a choice between getting paid 5 times less than what you're paying now, or trading the winter break for an extra month in the summer, what do you think the players would choose?
Take the month in the summer.
Exactly. So it's not a matter of the players are just too fucking spoiled and they've had way too much fucking power that we are saying, oh, good luck getting that back. How are the players going to stop it now? They have no CSP. How are the players going to say anything? What are they going to say? Are they going to go to the org and say we won't play? They're okay. We won't pay you.
I got a question here, Yanko. Just this is slight tangent, but still related to what we're talking about now with players. Do you think they get more power or less power with the partner leagues going away? Because now they won't have the blast thing that they've signed that says you can't tweet bad stuff about our event while you're at it, for example.
Yeah, but that's also just bad behavior, whether that's in the contract or not. Like that,
I'm sure it'll come back.
That's just leveraging like the community, just like talking shit, and you and I both know, like we all here know that the players will do that before they even talk to anyone from the tournament, like saying they have a problem. They'll just go and bitch about it on social media, right? And that will obviously cause harm to the tournament organizer and damage them in the views of the public, where it's something that could have been easily fixed, or prevented or whatever it is. And that's the problem, is like that the players have this feeling that we all exist to fucking cater to them. Like they're a part of this ecosystem as much as everyone else. Like, of course, they're the ones who play the matches and we all watch it because of that. But you need to understand, it's not just, you're not the only ones making this happen. There's a lot of different pieces to this puzzle, which enables like people to get paid and for this to be an actual business that, other people want to invest in or sponsor it and sponsor the tournaments and so on. So yeah, for that, the reason being obviously because that's when everyone's at home. That's when it's bad weather in most of the countries, right? Like in the northern hemisphere, that's when winter is, right? So for a lot of viewership, that's when you have the school break as well. So that's when you would have kids at home playing games, watching games, all this shit. Like people are on break from their jobs, they go like all this stuff. That's why you always you look at any fucking sport, there's no fucking break over Christmas and New Year's or anything.
Because that's
like
when
that.
most people can watch, yeah.
Exactly.
Definitely.
So I think our season should look something. And as I'm thinking about this, when you ask the question, for example, we have the NBA, but the NBA has too many games in the regular season. I don't really watch the NBA until the playoffs start. You don't like the NBA season? Okay. What?
You don't like the NBA season?
It's just like what am I to get? What is there to get excited about? It's one game out of 82. Like sure, if you get like 2 really good teams, but even then, now the players are also bitching out. Joel Embiid, the fucking bitch, hasn't played in Denver in like years. Because he's afraid to go up against Jokic, and he's like, why am I like? That's like if I'm the league, I'm like fucking. I don't want that shit. And they've added some rules about it. So the problem is if you make the league, the point being, if you make the league too long, then it's like, well, why should I like tune into all these games, right? Why not just wait for something? So I think it's a little bit tricky.
I generally think the league thing I think it doesn't work in esports. It doesn't work in Counter-Strike, I should say, with the way Counter-Strike is structured, because I think events are always going to be better. Leagues take a long time. The only way to do a league properly, I think, is to have the games online at home because of the length that it's going to be. And what? No TO.
No, you do it at... But listen, we're talking about fucking... We're not talking about being realistic. We're talking about like the dream scenario. You know,
Yeah, but like
I'm not being
I
asked
can't-
to
I
make a
can't- I
proper
can't-
business model. I'm saying, give me a fucking E-League studio, right, with 300 or 400 people in there, the fucking cool desk, everything, a full content team, a full capable production team, and we actually have like one game a night or 2 games a night. You know,
yeah,
and
but
that's it.
we already saw that fail.
Or
though.
even just one, and we can spend the whole day or like reading, or we have lead up to it, and we can create good content and build on the storylines and create really cool shit for each of these games. Bro, I love the NFL. I
Okay, but
watch
how
like
long?
Sunday
How
night
long is your
football,
league?
and I watch something, and I'm like thinking like, man, why can't I do shit like this for Counter-Strike? And then I realize, first of all, they have a week to prepare for this one game. Like
for one game.
For
yeah,
one
yeah.
game between these two teams, they only have one quote-unquote map, because the field is always the fucking same, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, that would be as if you gave me a week to prepare for Vitality versus Mouse on Mirage. Bro, you know the shit I could do in a week to prepare for that game? I could take a deep fucking dive into their Mirage, you know, in the last 3 months, every single map they played. I would look at the opponents that they played on those games to try and figure out how they approach anti-stratting all these teams, to try to predict, like, how, because obviously they play differently against each opponent, because you make these small adjustments to try to exploit some of the
and
weaknesses. You know, like, that would be easy work. Like, it would be fucking easy to do that shit with that amount of time.
Yeah, of course it would. But I mean, that's we've tried. I know I've tried in the past. That was the whole thing of like when Blast. Chad, you were there when we had that meeting. But you know, the whole idea when Blast used to have teams pick which map they were going to play in the best of ones. Like that was the whole logic behind that. Was to say let's give ourselves some time that we know what maps are going to be played, so we can actually come up with something interesting. But then it never got factored into the broadcast. It was still done as a desk, and you know, for various reasons. But also a league of any length, you know. Let's say you want a league that's going to be a month long, and it's going to be.
I think he's saying a league for the whole year, though, like for a season, Jason. I think in his utopia, is Counter-Strike is a league. There aren't other events.
He's
not saying like exclusive
events. It's just like for whatever.
Okay.
Some amount.
He's
of
talking about a
months,
draft, everything like that.
It can be like 2 seasons per year of the league, right? And then in between you have some, right? Like, but the season can last for like 2 months. You know?
Yeah, look,
I see what you mean.
I don't watch any American sports, so like I personally am definitely not of a franchise model by any stretch of the imagination. But like I just said, I don't watch any American sports, so I can't talk to the entertainment possibilities from that because I don't consume it. But the one that I like is the tennis, right? And I don't really watch the tennis either, but the fact that the way that teams get invited to, or players, sorry, get invited to those events, and the fact that there's events of all different scales going on all the time, but people only getting hard-ons for the Grand Slams, right? Like the Wimbledons or the Australian Open or the American Open, or is the French Open the other one?
Yeah.
So people are going to tune in for those, like the more normies who aren't like super giga tennis fans, but the hardcores can tune in like every week or every second week to catch maybe some of the good players and also a mix of some of the up and comers. And that's kind of where I'd like us to get to in terms of a recipe. But one thing that you just, with what you were talking about there, Yanko, you mentioned like E-League studio thing. Like, I know some players might be interested in going back to online. And I guess it would be depending on how it factors into a season worth of events for Pro League. Let's use that as the example. Who was it? Any of you guys, or did this come from somebody else? I don't know who this came from, so I apologize for forgetting. And if it's someone I should be giving credit to, then my bad. But the idea of having online matches again, but these big orgs, which I want to burn to the ground, but you know, let's say that they still exist. Sad. They all have like a facility. They have like a cinema, right? Like for their local fans, and their fans come to that facility while their team from that facility plays the official, like the online official. So there's fans, they're cheering for their team, and they're streaming on a big screen or whatever in their POVs. Obviously not the whole game, because that could start to affect some issues with, like, you know, and there would actually have to be a delay and stuff, right? So you would probably just stream your players' POV so they could watch that stuff live. But we have enough decently sized teams. Like, for example, Liquid has the Netherlands, and Vitality would be able to do it over there in Paris or whatever. I don't know, G2, maybe they could build one in Serbia.
It's a cool idea, but it feels like such a pipe dream to me. I mean,
for sure.
Yeah, that's essentially what.
But couldn't you
Overwatch tried to do,
monetize
right?
with that?
That's essentially what Overwatch
yes.
tried to do.
Yes, but Overwatch sucks.
Yeah. I mean that is a huge limiting factor, is when the game itself is just straight up dog shit to spectate.
Man, any company that has tried to manufacture a game to be an esport has had limited or just absolutely no success.
Yep.
Like you can look at Valorant and League of Legends and maybe have that from a different conversation, but they use that as marketing and advertising for their game. Whereas the other ones, which are more organic, obviously like a Dota or a Counter-Strike, that they don't like use their big events as, well, marketing in the same way. It's more like fan service, right? We've had that type of conversation before, which, yes, is a type of marketing. That's not me that said that. It was one of the Valve devs. So, yeah, like this is the solution that we will never in our lifetime probably get to see it, but we at least get to be along for the ride. And I wish that there would just be more experimenting going on from some of these TOs. And there's going to need to be more experimenting going on from some of these TOs as we go forward, especially if more of them are coming back. Different ways to integrate with the viewership. Like I talk about this every time I get a chance to talk about like a stage setup. The 360, smaller, the screen under the players that is the mini map so you can see all the action. Screens above the players' heads, so that's when you look up and you see the action about to happen. Having the players always facing each other because it's a fucking competition. It's not a One Direction concert. Like... there's all these little details that I would love to just have amped and tweaked and tried. And I know it's expensive, but that like nothing in this world is fucking cheap.
No, but I also don't even
oxygen's pretty cheap.
I don't think it's money that's holding it back. I think it's maybe just like a matter of breaking out of habits and tradition of the way things have been done traditionally for it, right? And
well, the problem is they have to build the space, right?
Yeah, but like the idea of like finding a way to design a stage with players facing each other isn't going to cost anything versus facing out into the crowd, in theory, right? Like you're already spending X amount of dollars. Like how much more is it going to be to shift the way the players are facing? You know, it's
I just think if anybody, and I know people have issues with the EWC and all of that, right? But if anybody we were looking at was going to spend money on doing things that are outside of the box, it would be them.
You'd hope it would be them, yeah.
And that's where you wish that there'd be some real creativity. And I understand that an event in that part of the world is not going to have the most spectators by any stretch of the imagination, but that doesn't mean we can't try and have a more unique viewing experience or tailor something that would be more entertaining to the people at home or get a better result out of the emotions that you can capture from players or the level of shit talk that's going on between the players and that type of stuff. And those are the things that most people are tuning in for, right? Is most people are just going to tune in to watch the game. They don't really care about the frills and all the other bullshit on the side. That's ancillary. That's not the main show. People are there to watch the game and see the result unfold, which should always be the number one focus.
Well, they made while we're on the subject, they made an announcement about an hour ago, if you want to hear about this, because one area where they are, I guess, getting somewhat creative is trying to revive the idea of an esports team having teams in multiple games all competing for an overall esports title, as you know.
Like the CGS.
Yeah. Did you see the prize breakdown they just announced?
Isn't it like 60 million?
Well, for the club championship, so the team that has like the best teams across every single game, not just for like one game, but you know what the
like Rocket League.
Yeah. If they place well in Rocket League, League of Legends, Counter-Strike, FIFA, probably PUBG Mobile, I think is there. First place for the club gets $7 million if they're the number one club across every game. Second place.
Well, that's one way that the orgs can make some money, I guess.
Second place is 4, third is 2, fourth is 1.5, 16th is 150 grand. So yeah, they're cranking out a ton of money.
But my fear with this is what happens if they go away.
The fear is, if this goes on for 3 years and everyone gets used to having this money and then they decide to pull the plug, that's a big pulling the rug out from beneath the entire industry.
Yeah.
Well, just like CGS. But I mean, I think it's different though, because we were talking about orgs. Like there are orgs that are profitable, like more than profitable, right? A lot of the big ones, I don't know how it is for some of the mid ones, right? That end up losing players to the big ones. Like, I think Ants is also profitable, right? Like, so I think like this added obviously injection will help, but I would hope also that people in these organizations are smart enough that they'll be like, listen, this is here now and that's all great, and we know that it will happen for 2 or 3 more years. We don't know after that, so you shouldn't put all your eggs into one fucking basket. And that's the thing. It's like also now there's so many tournaments in all of these games, right? I mean, Counter-Strike, if there's no EWC, nothing would fucking happen to Counter-Strike. Absolutely nothing. It would keep rolling, right? Like same for probably every other esport that's being played there. I mean, Dota would be fine. League would be fine. Rocket League would be fine. I don't even know what else is being played there, right? So I don't think it's...
Valorant, I think, and maybe... Is Valorant there? League's there? Dota's there?
Yeah, Valorant, anything Riot-related is fine. Right, Counter-Strike, Dota, fine, like all this stuff. So I think we've developed enough since. Like, it's been, 15 years since EGS at this point?
2008 it died.
Yeah, 16 years, so it's like...
Jesus.
Things have evolved and we're in a much better place now. And I think also, the orgs themselves are kind of... I wanted to say, like, figuring out how to create revenue and have sustainable fucking flows of revenue.
Models?
Yeah, I don't know what I want to say. But basically that it's not all dependent just on that prize money. Obviously, you need to have successful teams because successful teams will have more followers, will have more fans, fan base will grow. Fans are the ones who spend money on merch, on all the other stuff that you push to them and all this stuff. So, that's like, at some point you have to win, but as we've seen with orgs like G2, when you become so big, right? It's like even if you're not winning as much, there's still like a lot of shit that's going on, and like you can still generate revenue because you become so big that it's become a little about more than just winning, and now you have this fan base that's fanatical to an extent and is just following you, right? Like win or lose, whatever happens.
So there's something else you said there which got me interested in this type of a question. Tell me what you guys think of this. How fucked would we be as Counter-Strike if Valve decided to stop? Like, they still updated the game, and they still did that type of stuff, but they'd stop doing majors. How fucked do you reckon we are? And how much of the majors with sticker money do you think is a pull for a lot of these organizations to even be in Counter-Strike?
I think sticker money has value to the orgs. I think we would take a short-term hit, but I think we'd be okay. Overall, I think it would just be an adjustment to going into a world where we don't have the majors, where we don't have the sticker monies, where teams don't get their logos inside the game as well. But I don't. But
is that the key? Is the key to the success? Because this is where we can start to open up the question a bit. Is the key to the success of majors the fact that it is the in-game items and the in-game functionality of the stream being in there and everything?
I think it is a huge factor is the involvement in the game itself for a lot of team orgs. I know, like especially when you look at other games, I know a lot of. When I was in the Liquid org, it was one of the things that they really liked was the fact that there's so many other games that gave in-game buyables to fans and in-game skins that are dedicated to teams and players, and that is a model that they've wanted to see replicated a little bit more in Counter-Strike. And I think a lot of teams feel that way, considering how successful like team bundles are in certain other games. Whether I think Rainbow Six has them, but Fortnite obviously with their integrations, orgs love that shit. It's huge for orgs.
Then how do you do that without Valve running the entire competitive scene themselves, or them playing favorites with TOs?
I think you could do it, because was it Starladder that used to do things like that, or one of the TOs used to do things like that until Valve. I'm assuming Valve made them kind of stop it. I mean, you can.
They weren't consumable items. They weren't things that people could buy, but they definitely did custom gloves, and they would put different like logos and sponsors within maps of Counter-Strike, and Valve don't like it when you edit the game state like that.
Right.
Because Blast wanted to do the golden pair of gloves for
the champions of the last season would get gold weapons or something like that, or the MVP.
Yeah, like kind of because what these innovators do, Jason, is they look at traditional sports like cycling and they go, well, the people know from event to event who the best cyclist is because he's got on a yellow jacket or a yellow. Come on, guys. What are you fucking talking about?
I think if there were no majors, I still think we would be fine in the long term.
I think other events would step up, right?
It would be a big hit in terms of money for the stickers, for the orgs and the players. But man, just imagine next year there's no majors. You have PGL with how many tournaments? 6. You have ESL.
Yeah, and some of them are slated for like 2 weeks,
Yeah,
right?
you have ESL with all their shit. You have Blast with all their stuff. Like they've added a week in each season extra to their schedule. Starladder is coming back. Like, yeah, just remove the majors and you still have all these tournaments. Like, it would suck for all of that, but the scene would just keep going. We would adapt.
So why
and
do you think
survive.
why do you think these TOs are coming back now? Right, obviously the partner leagues being deconstructed means that they're able to get their hands on better teams.
I think that's it. I think that's the conversation. I think they all felt kind of forced out when the partner leagues really got activated, especially because, I mentioned this before. I think, when you sign on to be a partner team in the Louvre agreement and sign on to do it in Blast, like you're kind of committing your team already to 2 pretty big seasons. And then you're saying, what's the value in me playing in a competitor league when I'm a partner in this one? And in that sense, if you're Starladder and you're trying to get together a 16-team tournament twice a year and you invite, 12 of the teams are partnered and all of a sudden you can't get them, it's like, where's the viewership going to come from? Then you're putting up, $250,000 of prize money for an event, and then you're putting up $250,000 to run the event, as just a random number.
To get fucking Sashi there.
And then you don't get any viewership and you don't have any way to sell the sponsors, and then you're just bleeding money. So I think all those TOs, when the partner leagues really activated, were just like, this is kind of fucked. Like, this actually just doesn't make sense for us to run our business.
And also, Sorry.
No, go on.
I thought you were done with your point.
You're all good, baby.
I wanted to say, and PGL with all their statements about, oh yes, now that the monopoly is over and this and that. Let's not forget about PEA, and who was actually one of the first ones to try.
Them, Face It.
Like with
was DreamHack in that?
I don't know, maybe, but it was like C9.
Was DreamHack still part of?
And all these organizations, right? And they just couldn't really make it happen, which is essentially they wanted to do that at the time because I think initially the rumor was that ESL was going to do it with Vulcan. Remember Vulcan?
Yeah, that was really early on. Yeah,
and I think Richard broke that story or something like that, and then that fell through, and off the back of that was this PEA thing, which didn't end up happening, and later on, I guess much late. Well, I don't know how later on, but the Louvre agreement happened, and all of this other stuff. So, no one was preventing you from coming up with a model and doing the exact same thing, like with the teams. Which, actually, they tried to do it. They just couldn't get it done. Like, they just couldn't come up and present, an offer, to teams that made enough sense that they would be willing to not play in these other tournaments. And that shouldn't also be... That's, there's a big... ESL was never... It was never exclusive that if you're a part of Louvre agreement, you can't play in any other tournaments. That was never a stipulation in any of those contracts. Like you could play in whatever you want, but you have to play in. You can only miss 3 tournaments over 2 years.
Over a year and a half, yeah,
something like that. Yeah. Which is if you have to choose between 2 tournaments at the same time, you're going to play in that one, which isn't forcing the teams to be exclusive. It's kind of dissuading anyone else to run the tournament at the same time. But no one does that now anyway.
I'm interested to see if that changes.
Even next year, we see some overlap with PGL and ESL, right? But I think that overlap is going to be when PGL is doing some online stuff. And not.
You think they're going to do online stuff?
That's what I heard. Some of the stuff is going to be online.
Okay. That's interesting, right? Because to run so many events on LAN would be extremely costly, and you have to find locations and everything like that.
Yeah, exactly. I think they have locations. They've done a lot of Dota stuff over the years, right? Especially in Asia.
I hope they go to Singapore.
Southeast Asia. Yeah. So I think they're fine, with organizing events and all of that stuff. But I think also, they're still going to be in the Dota circuit. I think it's not as much money as being stretched too thin in terms of resources, manpower, and that stuff. You can't have people flying from, I don't know, Romania after just doing a Dota tournament to fucking Singapore to do a Counter-Strike tournament to fly to America to do a, Dota tournament, right? You have to be a little bit careful with how you do that.
But that's the thing. If PGO come in and they start running events of the same or similar to a Blast or an ESL, and they've just come out of nowhere to do it, right? Because they've still been doing a lot of the Dota stuff. They do a lot of white label stuff as well, as far as I'm aware. It just makes me feel like they know how to sell better than other people. To come and just announce we're going to do 6 events after doing majors. That's the only thing they've really done and RMRs in CS in recent history. And then they come out of the woodwork and yeah, fuck yeah. just to me makes it seem like either with the majors they've run and the numbers that they got, they were able to leverage those really well against sponsors, or they just sell differently to how they're doing things. Because, like, again,
especially if the sponsors aren't really familiar with the difference between running a major and just running a tournament.
That's true too.
I don't know which kind of people work at these companies nowadays. You would expect by this point, for how long we've been around and there's been sponsors at these big events, that they would know the difference between running a major and just running a standalone tournament, but you can never be too sure.
Yeah, I would wonder. I bet they'd have multiple pitches, right? If you work on that side, you'd have kind of a pitch for the entire Counter-Strike circuit you're planning on running, and in that you could say, and then you'd have some for like individual events, perhaps, right? That's how I would imagine.
But listen, I'm fucking tired of all this fucking business talk and format.
This is my favorite talk.
Can we just talk about some Counter-Strike for fuck's sake?
What do you want to talk about, man?
Fnatic signed BlameF.
Okay, I don't want to talk about that. You can talk about that.
How the fuck do they have money for BlameF? They had fucking QB and Mattis and a bunch of like plumbers in the last 2 years on the team, and now they're signing BlameF.
You're always going with my trade, Yanko. Leave my trade out of this. Just go bricklayers or electricians.
You know where this comes from, Chad? It comes from like NBA talk, because like people talk about, comparing Jordan to LeBron, how Jordan had to face plumbers, playing against him or whatever. Or then they say that for the generation before, but whatever. I have nothing against plumbers. I think it's a honorable craft.
Thank you.
So yeah, I don't know. Like,
well, I think you answered your own question. they haven't had a fucking expensive player on the team in fucking years. They haven't had anyone. They get everyone on the cheap, and then you can splurge when you see an opportunity like this.
Oh yeah, bringing Benjamin into Fnatic is a significant move that indicates our ambition to return to the top echelons of competitive Counter-Strike.
They've said that 6 times over the last fucking 4 years.
Franchise level player, Chad, whose impact goes beyond just his in-game ability. He can also lift some trucks. No, he didn't say that. This acquisition marks a significant shift from our approach over the last few years, emphasizing our commitment to not only participate, but return to meaningful competition.
Well, I think Mattis is pretty good. I think he had some pretty decent moments when we got to watch him. I have no doubt that I think Blame is a strong rifler. I'm just interested to see his integration within this team. But all in all, it's just another one of these middling of the pack international teams, right? Like Blame will have to go fucking full carry mode.
This is like a 1 year, 2 year contract at most, just for Blame to like play some CS and then get bought out by someone else.
I mean, this is going to sound like a stupid fucking comment, because I just realized as I opened up the HLTV rankings where Fnatic is, they're outside of the top 30, because I was going to say this is definitely going to elevate the team. I think it's a good pickup. I like it.
Someone had to pick him up.
They're fucking dog shit.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I think the team has some cool parts to it. You just mentioned Mattis. I mean, Crims is obviously still in there, and I think he's still solid.
He's still kicking.
Yeah, he's still doing solid body of work. You can rely on him. Afro, I think, is solid as well. So, I mean, they have some pieces, and let's see how they fit him into this team. And let's see how he might have changed the way he approaches certain things in his game and certain situations inside the game. And if he's trying to shed some of that label and going to be a little bit more aggressive, because, I mean, you have a new team, a new in-game leader, things are going to change.
You know what?
What?
Yanko?
Yeah.
Your boy Kassad making big money moves.
Yeah, man, that's what I want to talk about. That's a banging move for them.
Are they carried today in their first series? Have they played their second series yet?
They lost to the academy team, I saw, but that was like their first official.
No. They beat Mao's NXT. They beat them.
That was the best of 3.
Yeah, but they lost to Gaming Gladiators, which is Zippel's team from the major. Nodios, Krag, and Paddy, Queenix, and Salazar. They lost to them. But they've only had a couple days worth of practice.
That's what I was gonna say. Like I thought it was the best of 1 to Mao's NXT that they lost. So I was gonna say, man, who cares? Like, they just had like a couple of days practice. You change 2 players, it's a big deal, especially with the Opera. And they changed 2 players and they changed the role for Faven. So it's a. Apparently,
they've also put Jacob in different positions too than what he's used to playing. According to Nork, that's what Nork told me on Monday.
Maybe a little bit, because you have Cypher there and they're like aggressive players, so you have to like kind of make it work. So, but yeah, I think it's a massive upgrade, obviously in the opping department first and foremost. And I also know, man, Jacob was, really good when he was on Renegades, like with Kassad. So I think Kassad knows how to use him and set him up where he can have even more impact. And I think we even saw like good games occasionally from Jacob, but it wasn't consistent because I don't think he was the focus of that Apex team ever. So yeah, then it's just about sort of, Faven in a now more supportive role. I feel bad for Ladan, obviously, that, he got benched, not because he was like doing bad, but, they just saw an upgrade. In the end, it came down between him or Faven, like who's going to be that more supportive player, and Gassad went with Faven. I guess due to the experience, and just maybe him having a bit of a higher floor at the moment, maybe. But yeah, I think this could definitely put them, in a position where
they go up a notch for sure.
Yeah. I think a significant notch. I think it now goes to, we can try to qualify for some of these maybe challenger events, right? Some of them.
Like an Atlanta or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
The goal is going to be obviously the major, right? For the next major
for sure.
cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think we should be seeing them at Alan before that. I know they qualified for that one. No, that's Thunderpeak. That's online, right?
Yes, I think so.
But regardless, I think it helps the team a lot. And now I'm really
cool pieces to it, and it's like let's just see where it goes. Let's see what happens with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of veteran players. Jacob, Hampus, Nog, Faven, like these are not rookies. And Cypher, sure, a little bit. I mean, he had that, obviously, the Blast Major performance, but outside of that, didn't really do too much. So
his numbers are getting better.
When you see those skills on display, it's kind of like that's a project player. And then you see what happens now that you have more experience and strong players around him where he probably doesn't feel like he needs to go above and beyond round in, round out.
I think.
Well, in the beginning, it was really rough, but he's definitely gotten trended upwards.
I think the expectation for me, like I would be fine with by the time the qualifiers for the RMRs roll around, that they are top 20, top 25. I think it's maybe going to be hard to be top 20 without attending LANs, like you're just not going to have the opportunity. So maybe.
But Aurora's top 20, so maybe it's possible.
Yeah, but Aurora, that's mostly because they played the Melbourne final.
That's true.
But yeah, if Aurora can make it there, why not them? Also, you remember the qualifier for fucking Dallas? Was it for Dallas? It was just shit CIS teams.
Yeah.
So...
That's true. We did look at that and go, what the fuck? Where are like all the good teams to qualify for this?
Why are we...
Or was that the Chengdu one?
Maybe it was Chengdu. I don't know. One of the two. Maybe it was
Chengdu. Namiga... No, it must have been Chengdu because Namiga was in...
it was Chengdu.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
It's like, the fuck is going on there?
What else? Heroic signed Dexter.
Oh yeah, then they won their debut.
They had their first win. It was just while we were having this podcast. I think they finished that game. Dexter went.
He top fragged as well.
50 and 32, 1.26 rating across the series.
They all played well though. Looking at the spread. So and also Dust 2 coming out again in another series. This time picked by Heroic and they lost it. So that's a Dexter map through and through.
Yeah.
Is that one of the maps they played when it was FaZe vs Spirit in the major quarterfinal? Was Dust 2 in the map pool then?
Wait, is that Antwerp?
Antwerp, yeah, that was...
Was it Antwerp or was it Stockholm?
Antwerp. It was Antwerp quarterfinal.
I don't think it had Dust 2. Oh, no, it was. Yeah, that's the one they won on. I remember Harry's line. That was like the City of Diamonds or something, blah, 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 with the knife.
Because it was an insane series. That series was fucking mental.
Also, Chad, talking about Namiga, Gamer Legion signed Flammas from Namiga.
Yeah, I asked Prof and Striker if they knew who that was on Monday, and they didn't, so I left it at that, because I really have no idea who that is either. Which is not meant to be offensive by any stretch. It's just I have no idea.
I don't
really
know.
Talking about Gamer Legion, Isaac joins NIP.
Yeah, that one I don't think is too bad. I don't mind that one. I think that it's definitely a good piece for them to get, for sure. I think Isaac, within the roles that he plays, is a very good supportive element, and he can actually put in a decent impact. But still, I think Wrinkle's good. I think Isaac's good. I think Wrinkle can be good. Like what we saw from him at Pro League there was some good signs.
It was a nice first glimpse at him, wasn't it?
And he's very tall.
Yes, he's very tall. That's one of the highlights of Wrinkle. But overall, like this Maxter guy, I don't know. I haven't seen enough of him to know if he is worth his salt, right? And then we have the perpetual Rez conversation.
I do like Maxter,
Yanko's
like
favorite.
Initially because I did a couple of NIP games. He plays with some balls, and was pretty sharp in some of the fights. Obviously, time will have to tell whether he has depth to him as a player, but has a little bit of that umph, a little bit of bravado. Seems like a LAN player. I always like that. I always enjoy guys like that. So it's just about when you're like that, you have to also deliver on the server, right? So we'll see. But how crazy is it that this could have been NIP's lineup, right? If things worked out a little bit differently. Hampus, Brolan, Isaac, Maxter, and Nok, and exists as a
Nok
coach.
said Nok would never go to NIP ever again.
They cheated him out of fucking money, didn't they?
He hates him.
Yeah, right.
And that's not even an overextension of the word hate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so not that. But at least they could
Not Nok.
Yeah, they
Maybe
could have
Fuzi.
Yeah, Fuzi. But yeah, NIP now.
Jackie.
NIP now. We'll see.
That's the rebuild complete, isn't it? That's like the
Yes.
consistent lineup that we're hoping for at least, and I guess for the.
This is the one they're
foreseeable
taking into 2025, Jason.
There's going to be one change surely before 2025.
I was joking. I got no idea.
There's
Gamer Legion with not Gamer
Yeah,
Legion.
but it's not going to be Rez.
It's not going to be Rez.
It is insane to think that Rez has been at NIP since 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for
It's
him.
now 2024.
And,
That's a long time.
and he's 26 now.
Yeah, a lot's happened in that time. Did you see Monty brought in Stico?
Yeah.
I guess he'll play like Bro's positions, which is actually pretty good. I think like him just to play those kind of positions is good. You know what you're going to get from Stico. I think Demka is actually a pretty good rifler, man. Like I actually like watching Demka play.
Oh, I love Demka's game. I think he's so much fun.
It's a good decision maker, has good output. They've kept Waro, Demko, and Krasnal, that core. Stico's joining the mix.
I think Krasnal's cool too. Like that's
tilts too much.
that's a solid 3-man core.
They tilt too much, Yanko, or he tilts too?
I think I mean, as a team, we saw the shit between Woro and Krasnal, and also Woro is like someone that just the complaining stuff. I think that's where I like LMBT. I think that's where he needs to sort of take the get the belt out a little bit for some of these guys.
That's
just
an
be
old
like,
name.
listen, stop fucking complaining, stop fucking whining. Can you just play the fucking game? Whatever happened, it's gone. It's happened. You won't have this round back. You won't have this flashback, this peak back. Just keep it moving, right? And then we'll talk it over in VOD review, and we'll work on like if it was a mistake or not and how to get better, right? Like, but you need to be more focused during the games, not tilt your ass off the face of the earth. And they were playing FaZe, man, in the playoffs. Right,
Yeah.
they're playing the number one team in the world.
Yeah, and they were tilting.
And you're tilting. Like, how can you can't?
And they took a map off them.
You can't allow yourself to do that. Like, if anything, you have to be as poised as fucking possible, because FaZe will win rounds where you did nothing wrong, but they'll just bullshit their way in a round. Because they have the individuals to do so.
I would really wonder with this addition of Stico to the roster, because he seems like a person who would be good in that environment, but I wonder how much he'll be able to actually influence that and change that sort of mentality within the team. Like he's such a level-headed guy, smart guy, really calm, really always in control of himself. That'd be a good presence to have in a team. But when you have 2 people who kind of get into it like that and start tilting, I think it'll be interesting to see if he can actually have enough influence on them to keep them equally level-headed in those situations.
I don't know, man. I don't
And
know.
also, the last rumor is that Haji is going to be their stand-in for.
He's standing
Dallas.
in. I think that's yeah. So but that's also because the pieces they're getting, they're not getting pieces that they're looking. Well, that's the thing. They're not star output pieces. They do their job pieces. But that was kind of Monty overall anyway. Before the star rifler they had once upon a time was Boros, right? And then when they rejigged things around, they were looking to get more out of the core that exists right now: Krasnal, Demko, and Waro. But I just don't know, like, in terms of consistency, I think Demka, for me, is the one who offers the most. But he doesn't play... Like, he plays A anchor on Anubis, for example, which I think is a really tough position, to be fair. So probably good, a strong rifle like him's there. But I don't know. I don't put him in the framing, for me, of like a star rifler for some reason. He's I don't know. But he's very good. It's strange.
he is.
It feels like they're lacking output.
That was, I think, was it in one of the episodes when we were talking, and I said who G2 could potentially get for, like, instead of Jake or whatever, then I said Demka. If you needed an anchor and a guy who would be more aggressive on T side, like in that position, you could have considered him.
Yeah.
Because he's like
suggestion.
one of those rarer, like more aggressive anchors, right? Like he's usually, when you talk about it, it's like, especially on the CT side, it's guys who are just playing retake all the time, who are full passive, and so on and so on. So for him, it's a little bit different. But yeah, I think they need to get their discipline in check. And we'll see what their full five is in the end.
No, Warrow's IGL.
Okay, he's going to stay that way?
Stiko wasn't an IGL in Apex either.
He did for a while.
Like a tiny period of time, but he didn't want to do it.
Even Warrow and SDY kind of bounce back and forth at different moments.
Yeah, but it's been Warrow for a while, I'm pretty sure.
So he sticks
like I think it was Warrow before SDY did it. SDY only took it over for like a short tenure. I think that's the thing. Like Monty now, they've had a bit of a drop off, even though they still had that decent game against FaZe. They sent the other two kids back to the academy. So they obviously didn't like what they saw there. So they're just looking for more experienced players. And that's why I'm assuming they got a Stiko who has history with LMBT and Hadji also, who's played a decent level of Counter-Strike over the years and has LAN experience and whatnot. So I'd be curious to see how that kind of unfolds for them. What else is there out there at the moment?
I hope that team gets strong.
Well,
that Monty team.
We didn't really I don't necessarily want to talk about the whole of Pro League playoffs, but just touch on a couple of the big names and sort of what happened to them.
I'm going to take a slash, but you get started. I'll come jump back in a second.
Yeah, Vitality just had... I mean, the problem with the final is you hear it from, almost everyone on that team, especially Apex, this is the worst, the worst final I've ever played on any team, as a team,
I think his quote on the HLTV interview was, "That was a fucking disaster." Oh, no, that was his tweet.
Yeah,
Never played that bad as for a final as a team. That was a fucking disaster.
So it's I don't know how harsh I can be on them when it's and their coach as well was saying in the losers interview, right, that it was
worse communication.
It's what the fuck is going on? And sometimes this as well as I, sometimes you just have these games. It's hard to explain. You've done everything the same for the game. Your players, no, everyone was sleeping fine, you just had the same schedule like you would always do, and shit is just sideways. I mean, I can tell you when this fucking happened was in the fucking Beijing game, And then on the other side, you have a team that's playing well, right? That's on point. They're punishing every that little mistake that you make, you miss a timing, you're being punished for it, right? And then the result is what it is. They didn't even hit double digits on any of the maps.
Yeah, that final doesn't really change my opinion in any way of Vitality. I would be curious, I wonder how much of it, the real question that it makes me have about Vitality, I guess, is I wonder what their run would have looked like starting with FaZe and then going into Astralis if ZywOo wasn't having those crazy fucking games. That team, certain players in that team, it felt like they never actually got going in this event the way I'm used to seeing. So I guess I would just be curious if the team is struggling and it was kind of hidden a little bit by how well ZywOo was playing through the group stage and through the start of the playoffs, or what is going to be the consistent Vitality.
And also, where's Mazzy at? in this, is he can he?
Yeah, it's weird.
Do well on this team? Is he a liability? What's going on?
Yeah, he had some really solid map performances for Vitality in some big games in the playoffs. He actually looked like he was starting to come back to his old self a little bit, and that's been a big question about them on the team moving forward as well. So, yeah, I don't know. It's that grand final was just such a head scratcher, and how little resistance there was from the Vitality side. Even Inferno Mirage, which were 13-9 and 13-8, which doesn't numbers wise doesn't seem like a stomp, but both of those had a little mini comeback that never felt possible in those maps, right? Inferno was, I think,
9-3, 9-3, 10-2 first halves of the three maps.
Yeah, there was just some mini streak from Vitality that you knew wasn't really going to turn into anything, which is it was just a crazy final. in that sense.
I know like Zywoo had a phenomenal tournament, right? Other than the playoffs where he dropped off a bit, right? But still was playing decent. It's just I think the ability that he showed in the 2 playoffs games, the quarter and the semi, were insane against top teams, or at least I consider Astralis to be a top team, or at least on their way. And then the showing against FaZe, like he absolutely fucking dominated. Like that was pure Zywoo just in the flesh, right? And I don't know if that takes away from the rest of the team or not, but it does make me like look at this squad and ask some questions, right? So look at it. Apex is the in-game leader. We all know that. There you go, Captain Obvious in the building. Who is the second voice in the team, do you guys think?
I would have to assume if there's a second voice, it would be SPUNJ.
That's what I would expect too, but I don't know if that's the case or not. And it's interesting.
I want to say Zywoo. I don't want to say SPUNJ.
I don't think Zywoo is that type of a guy.
I don't either.
He needs to be. Like he needs
I think
to
he
evolve.
needs to be, but I don't think he
that's
is that
fine.
type
Like
of a
3
guy.
years ago, that's fine. I have no problem with that. But at this point in his career, he needs to be evolving into that guy. You know, because he has
Sure.
the experience, right? And he also has some more inexperienced players around him, and he's supposedly done it on the big stage. He has a major win under his belt. Like, so what's stopping him from being that guy?
Yeah, well,
What's he trying to tell me that Apex still tells him what to do, like in rounds? Like, come on, no way.
I don't know if he still tells him what to do within rounds, but I think if you look at like Zywoo, who's in flow state, right, and then Zywoo, who's maybe not in the set, like if he's in flow state, I don't think he's being told to be in the flow state. That's not what I'm saying. I think, but when you're a player of that ability and you're reading the game really well for yourself, right, you're in the right place all the time, and then it helps if your in-game leader's making some of the right calls to help facilitate that as well, right?
Yeah, but that's Go
Yeah?
ahead.
I was going to say, but I don't think that he's the second voice, because when I look at the team that won the major, it was probably Magisk that was the second voice in the team.
Yes, I agree with that.
So since then, I'm questioning if anybody has filled the void that has been left by that departure.
Yeah, but I think it should have been him. Like, and I agree. I mean, I think Zywoo calls his own number. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go there.
Well, when he has
and all
the
that
ult.
sort of a stuff.
But do you think? Okay, so I'm not disagreeing with your standpoint there, Yanko, that it should be Zywoo, right? But I don't think it is, right? Like currently,
That's
like,
SPUNJ doesn't really seem like that guy either.
No, exactly. So then you have Mezzi in the team, and I understand some of the positions that he plays would be difficult to do so, but some of the positions he plays are the ones that Magisk did. And Mezzi used to be an in-game leader for a temporary period of time. So is it Mezzi?
There's no way it's Messi
There's
at this
no
point,
way.
where it still feels like he's trying to establish.
He's just trying to like keep his job at this point.
Maybe that's a problem.
He's just trying to hold B on vertigo, man. give my boy a break.
Yeah, but that's it. Like maybe Apex is having to overcompensate, because I don't know if it can be Flamesy, even though the guy has a big personality. I don't know if he's that type of guy. Like I think he could be. So I don't know, because Apex plays a lot of these really important positions, and there has to be a reason that he chooses to play those really important positions, because if you get a better picture of what's happening within the round, you can move your pieces around a little bit better. The flip side of that, and the one that we always highlight, is when he gives away free deaths in those positions, right? He just dies in completely untradeable positions, or he's swinging with a nade in his hand because he's focused on something else, which is classic in-game leader brain. But maybe he feels like he's trying to overcompensate for something.
Well,
I don't know.
He made a pretty big point of saying they had like some role swaps where they put him in positions on map where like they needed someone who was willing to like be a playmaker and create some chaos in those scenarios, right? When he switched over, he made that a big point in interviews. I think that was around the Paris major, if I'm honest with you. That might have been a while ago. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like I don't know who the second, like Flames obviously talks a lot, and as you said, big personality, and we love him. I've never gotten the impression, and this isn't meant to be a digger in any way, I've never gotten the impression that he like kind of thinks about Counter-Strike in the game and like the big picture of the team kind of a way. To be that second caller. That's why I would think it would be SPUNJ, because Zywoo's always going to call his plays when he has the AWPs, but I think he's happy and content being a soldier when he has an AK-47. You know, he doesn't necessarily, I don't think he wants that responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. For me, I just feel that there's something a little bit off with Vitality. Like, I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. I know that they were in the grand final, right? So, and up until that point, they looked pretty good. So, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm with you. They didn't seem at all through the playoffs like they were functioning as best they could as a team, as a unit. There was something like a little bit weird in the way they were playing the game where it felt disconnected.
We also heard from Vitality and from Apex in interviews and like stuff that players need to be more accountable, for the positions that they play, like taking more initiative, just handling the situation better on their own instead of waiting for someone to tell them what to do or whatever it is, right? And that's sometimes the problem when you have like younger, more inexperienced players that are still talented and good, but you need to guide them a little bit. And I guess for them, they also felt same as I do, really, that that time has passed now. Like now you need to be showing, now you need to be taking the reins yourself, right? Because even for someone like Flamesy has been around for a good amount, like within your role, obviously, because not everyone's role requires to talk a lot and tell other people what to do, right? But like for some stuff to be facilitated, you need to say, hey, I need you to flash here for me, right? And I'll peek and stuff like that. So I think that's what they are hoping to sort of hone the communication from some of these guys and just the initiative taking and space taking, so it's not all up to Apex to be involved in all those actions all the time.
Yeah. Well, how many other teams did you guys talk about from the playoffs?
We just did Vitality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to talk about like the big ones, like G2, like
Okay, we talk about G2.
I think for G2, like the problem for me now is like their season is like, what do you do now? Like,
Hooksy's not in Dallas, so
yeah, Hooksy's not in Dallas. After that, you have Blast, but he's not in Dallas now. I saw like Nico is in fucking Dubai.
So he's on a holiday.
They're not like practicing right now. They were obviously given time off, so they're off like somewhere, and then they're gonna come back and play with whoever, maybe Taz. I don't know who they're playing with.
Stewie.
No, but what are they going to practice with Hooksy and then play with Taz? They're going to practice with Taz and then play with him. Like, what's the plan here? Because sure, Dallas, whatever, you don't expect to do much without your in-game leader. Not a massive deal, but a week after that, you have the spring finals.
Yeah.
So, right, and that's the last event of the season. And then, let's say they don't end up winning that event, right?
Pretty bad season.
So what? Yeah, their season has been pretty fucking bad. So what do you do if you're G2?
Well, what would you do?
Damn, he really
I know
turned
what
that
I would
fucking
do.
around on you.
No, because I know what I would do. There's only 2 players on that roster I'd keep. I'd go for a full rebuild.
I don't think you can remove more than 2 players.
Wow,
because
then
of the
I think
RMR.
you're fucked. I feel that the only player that I wouldn't sell in that team is Monacy. The rest of them I'd definitely have a conversation about, but I would keep Nico and Monacy, and I would try and build a new roster. That's what I would try and do. Yeah. I don't think there's any salvaging. Well, like, what do? You take out, like, if you were to do it, who would you, if you've only taken out 2, Yanko, which 2 would you take? Did we lose him?
No, I'm thinking. I think
you stumped him on that one.
No, I think Nex and Hunter, unfortunately. Even though I love Hunter.
I can get on board. I can get on board with that. That I can get. We can keep 3 if we're getting rid of Nex and Hunter.
To be honest, I'm on board. I don't even know if I can keep Taz. You probably have to. You have to give him like another season, but
give him another chance.
Because I know how hard it is to do shit in one season. But he's made so many mistakes, man. It's like, I mean, so many. I don't know if it's necessarily so many, but there's been a few big ones.
Big ones.
You know, like that's that's the problem, right? Like, so, and just some of the stuff with the team and how some of the stuff is set up, it doesn't seem optimal, right? I mean, and then again, it's the problem also, like, how much is it up to him and how much is it up to, the Hooksy as the captain, right? Like, they can't not be playing Mirage. Like, I don't care. You cannot do it. With this team, like with this lineup, you can't do it. Like, G2 is now in a position where their map pool can be Dust, Inferno, Nuke, Mirage, Anubis, Ancient. and
Yeah,
ban
pretty sick.
Vertigo.
Sick.
Bro, Ancient was for a little bit one of their best maps for like 6 months back or something like that.
They played a lot.
They're really good on Anubis right now. Inferno, no need to talk about it when it comes to them. Like, yes, Mirage has obviously been... But Mirage has been shaking a couple of fucking online games, when they just added Nexa. And maybe, like, the Blast groups, or I don't know, they played some, or World Finals, where they also, like, didn't have Taz. And again, it was, like, first LAN with Nexa, or second, I don't know. But in any case, I definitely think with Nico, Monesi, and let's say if Hunter is still on the team, like those three guys all fucking love Mirage and are really good on Mirage. Like, and those are your three heavy hitters. So perhaps just give it to him, man, and trust them a little bit more. Like, they'll help you out with what you need to call and how to approach the map and what's the meta on the map. And then Dust 2, I think, also obviously suits them with all the shooting,
The players they have. Yeah.
the players
It's
they
more
have
about- for sure.
So I think actually, like, G2, even with this lineup, with the
No.
lineup,
You were on
Well,
the right path for a second.
no, I know, Chad, but I was just gonna say, like, they should be better than they are, right?
Oh, for sure.
If you switch some of these things around, they should still be better than they are. But if you end up playing some of these like maps in some of these games, but the problem is, like, I can't full-heartedly say this and put it like on the maps and their map pool, because even some of the games that they're losing and how they're playing is like, it's just bad CS, man. It's just their floor is not as high.
They need
as it
life
needs
in the
to
team,
be.
Yanko. They need life. The team needs life. And I'm going to give you life right now. I like what you said before. We keep a Hooksy, we keep a Nico, we keep a Monesi. And we go over to Heroic and we say, listen, motherfuckers, we want Nerds. And we want him right now. And you get Nerds.
And
you have
we
Nerds.
want Shush.
Actually, you bang on.
And we
wanted
him,
Shush as well.
Pay him 1.5 mil for the two.
I didn't realize it, but we wanted Shush as well. We'll take Nerds and we'll take Shush. You have one of the best anchors in the game. You have another aggressive rifler to help complement Nico, so Nico doesn't have to go with him first everywhere, because Nerds likes to get in there as well. And then when you have to sacrifice someone to the Counter-Strike gods, you say, Hooksy, run and jump with a Mag-10 and do your best Karrigan cosplay. And then you don't even get that much overlap on CT sides, I don't think, between like Nerds and Nico. I think Nerds on Ancient plays middle, whereas Nico plays B. I think on Anubis, Nerds plays pop, whereas Nico plays middle.
The problem is you would want probably, you would want to switch Nico to some of those positions and not leave him to play B on Ancient.
Well, he could take Cave instead.
Maybe, yeah.
Like, I don't think it would matter, right? Like, I think that you might have a problem with Nerds and Nico when it comes to Mirage with, like, Connector, but one of the two of them can take short, still, like, a good position. Imagine your mid-hold on fucking Mirage is Nerds, Nico, and Monesi. And then you have Shush anchoring A, and you just have Hooksy jump spotting B. That's his life. That's his life. I'm sorry, that's his life.
I think he'd be fine with that, actually.
Where does Nerds play on Nuke? He's probably outside rifler, so Nerds would have to play somewhere else.
He played A, man, on Ents.
I'm looking at it right now. It looks like he plays Yard.
Yeah. Said that.
Yeah.
Nero's fucking thing.
What else have we got? We're getting rid of Overpass. We don't have to worry about that. Ancient, Anubis, Mirage.
And
Nuke,
Vertigo will be
Overpass
their
is gone.
ban.
Yeah, but Nerds doesn't play any Inferno. So he never played it on Ents, and I don't think they play it in Heroic. So we don't know for Inferno. But he'll be fine. He'll be fine. We don't have to worry about that. Put him on A somewhere. Okay, so it's looking good. So we just need that to happen.
Sure.
Do we buy Saw as well, Yanko? Make it 2 mil?
Oh, an upsell.
Yeah. Do it.
Okay.
Do
All
it
right.
because then you're also set for the longer term, right? Like then even at some point you have Nico switching to in-game leader, right? And you have Saw there with him to guide him through that as well.
And you still have Nerds and you still have Monesi. So it doesn't really
Exactly.
matter what happens to the other guys.
Yeah.
Okay,
Shush
we've
is
solved it.
How old is Shush?
Shush going to be like 26, I reckon. Nerds is 24. Let me
Oh,
see how
he's
old Shush is.
25. Okay. I thought he would be like
Yeah.
23 maybe.
That's all right. It's still a strong roster. All right.
I mean, Heroic never does that, though, right? Like, it'd be cool.
What? Heroic never does what?
It doesn't sell Nerds.
I think they do.
Shush.
For good money, man, I think they do. Why not?
Does G2 have money?
No way.
I mean,
just
they
brought in
do. I just
Dexter
don't.
today.
They do. I just don't know if they have money to spend.
Okay.
Yeah, but
that's a problem.
But heroic isn't as big as like a G2 or a FaZe or a Vitality as Jason. Like they kind of have to if the good offer comes in, they have to give the players the same way they did to Astralis, right? Like because
I don't think they do.
Because they would like G2 would have to pay a premium for those players, and then heroic would find like 2 other players to fill that role who are also very good, just not on that level.
Dude,
what about this though? So we didn't have to get. Sorry, just quickly. Let's say that we didn't have to get Shush, so we could save some money. What if we took NAF from Liquid?
That'd be cool. Although
would NAF work?
He's not really an anchor player. He's more of like the supportive rotator.
Yeah,
but
that's the problem.
NAF will do whatever you tell him to do.
Yeah, he will. But
him,
I think he's more effective in his
willing
current
to do
positions.
it is like, would he do it effectively?
Fair enough. All right, so we want Shush.
But yeah, it's yeah.
All right, we'll take Shush then. Anyone think Liquid's dead?
Dead's a strong word, but yeah, they're in a weird place. They're in a tough place. I think they have 3 roads forward that they have to pull the trigger
recording some content.
They have to pull the trigger on one of them, right? They have like three options, I think, placed in front of them after.
What is this? Marry, fuck, kill? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
I mean, you got to get rid of one of these 3: Skulls, Yakinder, or Cadian.
Okay. Can you get rid of more than one?
Yeah. I mean, you could in theory. The question is, I mean, who are you going to bring in to replace him? But I mean, I don't know exactly where that team's mindset is at, or entirely in how the inner workings go on. But just watching them at Pro League and Chengdu, even though despite good results, I think Yakinder showed signs of coming back to life, but I don't think he's done enough to like preserve his spot 100%. Skulls, I think, has shown good signs, but not enough to prove that he can be an established player on a tier 1 roster quite yet. And then I think Cadian as an in-game leader, I think at a certain point, if the team's not happy with it, or if players are really struggling to get involved with how he likes to call and how he likes to play the game, then you have to look at that as an idea as well. So I mean, it just depends on which route they want to take. But I think those are the 3 paths they have laid before them. Is at least one of the 3 has got to go. And I think if there are offers that pop up out of nowhere, maybe you can change that, add a player on the way out, whatever it might be. But those are kind of 3 things that I can see them doing.
What do you think about Liquid, Yanko?
I think Dallas, like they have this online tournament for they play in the CCT finals online from Europe, and then they have Dallas. I think those 2 tournaments will impact a lot what happens to the team. I think.
So you think that they're still in a good spot at the moment? Like this could survive?
It could. It just depends whether they need to make a change or not. And what change would that be? I just disagree with Jason. I think Cadian is staying where he is. I think it's going to be Gekindar or Skulls or both of them. Right? Like, because I think...
Didn't they pay a lot of money for Skulls, though?
They did, but... if it's not working out, it's not working out. What can you do? Just because, like, it's not working out, you can't keep doing it because you paid a lot of money. You just have to, bite the bullet at that point and be like, well, fuck it. We screwed on that one, but... I don't know. I think for me, a little bit like from the outside, it seems like still the problem is a little bit of too many voices, and then Skulls maybe gets a little bit lost in all of that and doesn't maybe have enough freedom to do stuff. And then is like mostly just playing to not fuck up. And when you're playing with that mindset, you're not going to have good games, man. Like very rarely, you're not going to find good impact because you're like not trusting your instincts because you don't want to die and like you're not taking enough risks, and you need to take risks when it comes to tier 1 Counter-Strike, right? And all that stuff. And he's had some good games here and there, but he's also had, I'm not even talking about stats. I'm talking about like I'm watching a game and I'm like, bro, how do you not get this one kill? Like he's in boiler lurking and a guy's like running from short or something to go rotate and he just dies to him. Like these are the sort of kills like you need to get if you're playing that position, right? And I'm like, how is this happening?
I think he's getting hardcore micromanaged at the moment. I think you have it pretty much right there, where I think he's trying to process so many things, and I think he's getting frequently micromanaged in rounds, which I think is throwing him off. Like I saw a couple rounds at Pro League where I was just like, no player with a working brain makes that play unless they have a teammate telling them to do it. Like nobody thinks this is the right decision to make unless, they're kind of trying to execute an idea that one of their teammates is calling out. And I think that's really, really kind of messed with him within this team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So that's why it's like also Ikinda, right? Like some games he's a liability, right? Like, and some games you see like that, okay, like maybe there's still something there. But that's the problem. Like for any team, you're just looking for some consistency,
But
and
this is also
they're struggling to find that.
That's why I also mentioned the Cadian angle, because it's like that inconsistency is coming from somewhere, and I don't know the opinions of the players within the team, and if that inconsistency or if that discomfort that we're seeing amongst multiple players,
I'm sorry, I'm losing it.
But if that's across multiple players, then I mean that is kind of you have to kind of look at the leadership and say, is this causing it? Is it a style of the calling? Is it the plays that are being asked to be executed? Like what is it throwing a lot of this roster off their game and out of their comfort zone? And that's why I would imagine that would be an option of removing Cadian, would be if that is stemming from the in-game leadership, then that's got to be a potential route that you take.
Look, guys, you should be talking about FlyQuest right now. I don't know why you're talking about these fucking NA losers.
What do you got about FlyQuest, baby? What you want to talk about?
I just wanted to say that they are playing some good Counter-Strike now. They obviously still have a lot of room for improvement, but I do believe that the type of Counter-Strike that we saw them play at Pro League is evidence that Dexter, now with enough time and the team finding a little bit more confidence and practice at Janko's lovely boot camp facility in Serbia, ENAT, I believe it's called, does reap rewards, and the team is looking the best they've looked in a very long time. I will say the teams they beat in the group stage of Pro Leagues were plumbers and truck drivers and
not plumbers,
and of the sort.
Electricians.
Bricklayers.
And also astronauts.
But the fact that they beat BetBoom, I think, was really strong. I think that's a positive win. And then pushing Liquid, even though I think it's a dysfunctional team, I still think the caliber of players would traditionally go into a series like that and think they could just disrespect a team like FlyQuest and run over them individually. And FlyQuest put up a good fight. So I think it's a positive sign. I just wanted to say something positive about them.
Yeah, well, you want to talk about FlyQuest, but I think the team we should really be talking about, if you want to be positive, is Fluxo.
Oh, okay. Guys, we've been going for 2 hours and 16 minutes, and I don't know if I can talk about Janko's favorite in-game leader, so I might have to go now.
No, that's all good. I think we've done enough for this one.
Jason, you got up to call this episode Business Talk.
Yeah. It was an hour and a half of business talk. I have a timestamp. I have two.
Nice.
I have intro into business talk, and then I have EPL playoff teams.
Okay, so we spoke a little bit about Counter-Strike today. That was really good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good hustle, guys. We'll do another episode at some point soon.
Next week before Dallas.
Yeah, let's do it. Maybe two.
Maybe two.
Ooh.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
See ya.
Bye.